Chapter 323. Ding. The middle-grade spiritual spear was stabbed into the ground beside young Master Dari. The body of the spear trembled and buzzed. Even though the martial artists had expected that Yixing's strength was above young Master Dari's, they were still shocked. Yixing had defeated young Master Dark Nether and young Master Thunderbolt consecutively, but he still had enough strength to defeat young Master Dari in the blink of an eye. This meant that Yixing was still full of energy after 2 battles. Looking at young Master Dari, who had fallen to the ground, the face of the judge of the Sun-Moon sect darkened. He had purposely allowed Yixing to fight 3 consecutive battles in order to exhaust Yixing's strength so that young Master Dari could obtain victory. Who would have thought that this would happen? Among the top 9, 3 of the 5 young masters had already been defeated by Yixing. Didn't this mean that Yixing would definitely enter the top 3? Even if he lost to the Yin Yang Master and Tian Luo Master in the later battles, he would still be ranked 3rd. This was because the other 8-star martial saints were no match for Yixing. The judge of the Sun-Moon sect had proposed the point competition so that the young masters could defeat Yixing and humiliate Yixing. However, the results were out of his expectations. The 3 young masters had been defeated by Yixing and had become Yixing's stepping stones. This time, even if Yixing only ranked 3rd, he would still be the most dazzling cultivator of the competition because the Yin Yang young master was expected to be the champion. However, if Yixing was in the top 3, he would be considered a rising genius and break the record of the 6 southern sects that had existed for hundreds of years. The judge of the Sun-Moon sect snorted angrily. The judge of the Dark Underworld sect was also unhappy. Yixing's rise did not benefit the Dark Underworld sect at all. As for the judge of the Tian Luo sect, his face was full of smiles. Yixing's performance had made him extremely happy. Yixing was only a 7-star martial sage, but he had defeated 3 8-star martial sages consecutively. His battle prowess was comparable to the Yin Yang young master. Compared to the Yin Yang young master, Yixing was only inferior in terms of cultivation. Although most cultivators did not know what Yixing's heavenly fate was, from the fact that Yixing had become a 7-star martial saint at the age of 17, his heavenly fate should be extremely high. The Yin Yang Gongzi was a 6-star heavenly fate saint and had become a 7-star martial saint at the age of 20. However, the martial artists of the Falling Star sect knew that Yixing was only an ordinary heaven's mandate. The rise of Yixing's cultivation was attributed to his destiny and lucky chances. The heaven's mandate could not restrict him at all. Of course, Yixing's destiny wasn't as low as the Falling Star sect martial artists knew, nor was it as high as other martial artists guessed. His current destiny was that he had swallowed Sir Watanabe's destiny, a 3-star yellow destiny. The judge of the Tian Luo sect said, "Yixing, you have already fought 3 rounds in a row. Go and rest first." Yixing nodded and returned to the area where the Falling Star sect martial artists were. This time, the judge of the Sun-Moon sect had no excuse to keep Yixing from fighting. Moreover, even if he kept Yixing to continue fighting, the other 8-star martial sages would not be able to threaten Yixing. Even if Yixing was defeated by the Yin Yang young master and the Tian Luo young master, entering the top 3 would still be a matter of time. Therefore, it was useless to keep Yixing to continue fighting. When the martial artists of the Falling Star sect saw that Yixing had returned, regardless of whether they were seniors or juniors, they were all wild with joy. Yixing had given them too much of a surprise. He had actually defeated 3 young masters in a row and secured a spot in the top 3. This was an honor that the Falling Star sect had never had before. Even though Qi Jingyang and Wu Qinggang were very jealous of Yixing, Yixing had brought honor to the Falling Star sect. As a member of they were also very excited at this moment. Good. 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 Lu Tianyuan patted Yixing's shoulder and praised, "Yixing, you have indeed given us a big surprise. Since the establishment of our sect, no one has ever entered the top 3 in the 10 sects tournament." Good. Good job. We are all proud of you. Our Falling Star sect has never been so proud before. Qi Dosheng, an elder of the War Pavilion, laughed loudly. He looked at Yixing with great admiration and said, "Yixing, you are only 17 years old this year. Whether it is fate or opportunity, this is your ability and the blessing of our Falling Star sect." With that, Qi Doshan glanced at Qi Jingyang and sighed, "If only I had a son like you." Ah! In his tone, there was a hint of disappointment in his tone. Qi Jingyang immediately lowered his head. The trace of affection that he had for Yixing because of the glory of the Falling Star sect disappeared in an instant and was replaced by an even stronger jealousy. Sect leader Lu, Yixing has secured a spot in the top 3. He has brought honor to our 6 southern sects. Congratulations to the Falling Star sect for having such a talented junior. Leng Xingyue, the sect leader of the Spirit Moon sect, said to Lu Tianyuan with a clasped fist and a look of envy in her eyes. The female disciples of the Spirit Moon sect looked at Yixing with stars in their eyes. Yixing had defeated 3 young masters in a row. This was too shocking for them. The martial artists of the Dongfu sect looked at the excited martial artists of the Falling Star sect. Their faces were ashen and their eyes were filled with sinister intent. After Yixing left the stage, the 10-sect grand competition continued. First, it was Luoying against Lei Yun. Then, it was Lei Yun against Ming Shuang. Lei Yun won 2 matches in a row. Besides the young masters, Lei Yun was indeed the strongest among the 8-star martial saints. However, Yixing had defeated 3 young masters in a row. Lei Yun had defeated 2 martial saints of the same level. This was not even worth mentioning. In the hearts of the martial artists, there was not the slightest ripple. Lei Yun fought 2 matches in a row and was arranged to leave the arena. Next, it was Luoying and Ming Shuang's turn. These were the only 2 female martial art practitioners among the 8-star martial saints. Furthermore, they were both good-looking. Their battle attracted the interest of many younger martial art practitioners. In the end, Luoying narrowly defeated Ming Shuang. After Ming Shuang left the stage, it was the Yin Yang young master's turn. Luoying directly admitted defeat. The judge of the Sun Moon sect then arranged for Lei Yun and Ming Shuang to enter the stage. Naturally, the 2 of them also admitted defeat. The Yin Yang young master had already won 3 matches in a row without making a move. He had obtained 3 points. However, in terms of points, Yixing was ranked first. He had already won 4 matches and obtained 4 points. The judge of the Sun Moon sect shouted, "Next, the Thunder young master." Although the Yin Yang young master had won 3 matches in a row, he had not made a move yet. Of course, he would not end up like this. Since he had entered the stage, he could not lose to Yixing. Therefore, the judge of the Sun Moon sect arranged for him to enter the 4th match. In this 10-sect grand competition, Yixing had shone brightly. He had defeated 3 young masters in a row and had become a dark horse in the hearts of the martial artists. As for the Yin Yang young master, he was publicly acknowledged as the #1 junior in the Qingyun region. Before the Tian Luo young master defeated Yixing, the judge of the Sun Moon sect would naturally not allow the Yin Yang young master to fight with Yixing. As for the battle between the Tian Luo young master and the Yin Yang young master, it would not be carried out in advance. Tian Luo young master had broken through to the 9-star martial saint realm and stood out from the other young masters. In the eyes of the martial artists, Tian Luo young master was the only one who could threaten the Yin Yang young master in this 10-sect grand competition. In the points competition, the 2 strongest experts had the rule of not meeting each other. The 2 kings would not be arranged to fight each other until the last match. Therefore, the battle between Yixing, Tian Luo young master, and the Yin Yang young master would be fought by Yixing first. Then, the loser would fight the Yin Yang young master, and finally, the winner would fight the Yin Yang young master. It would be the final battle. After the battle between Yixing and Tian Luo young master, the loser would still be able to defeat the Yin Yang young master. The martial artists did not even think about it. After a period of rest, the Thunderbolt young master had already recovered to his peak state. When he arrived in front of the Yin Yang young master, his eyes were filled with battle intent. The martial artist's spirits were finally lifted. Since Yi Xing had defeated the three young masters, there would be another duel between young masters. Moreover, one of them was the number 1 junior, the Yin Yang young master. The Thunderbolt young master said, "Yang Ming, you have always been known as the number 1 junior in the Qingyun region. However, we have never had a real victor. Today, I would like to see how much of your reputation is real and how much of it is fake." The Yin Yang young master revealed a disdainful expression and said, "You are just a loser who was defeated by a 7-star martial saint. You are not qualified for me to use my full strength. To deal with you, I will use 30% of my strength." 30% of his strength. The Yin Yang young master said that he only needed to use 30% of his strength to defeat the Thunderbolt young master. "My condition is not good. Let me relax for the next 2 days. Today, I will update twice. I will pay back the overdue updates. There will be more later." Chapter 324. Hiss. When the martial artists heard this, many of them sucked in a breath of cold air. The Thunderbolt young master was the strongest among the young masters in the same realm. He was stronger than the Dark Nether young master and the Great Sun young master. Young Master Tian Luo was stronger than the Thunderbolt young master in the eyes of the martial artists because his cultivation was 1 realm higher than the Thunderbolt young master. It was obvious that the Thunderbolt young master's strength was extraordinary. However, the Yin Yang young master said that he only needed to use 30% of his strength to defeat the Thunderbolt young master. How strong was the Yin Yang young master? No one thought that the Yin Yang young master was boasting. They were just shocked by his strength. Yi Xing squinted his eyes. He could feel that the Yin Yang young master was very strong. It seemed that the Yin Yang young master did not show his true strength when he fought with the Thunderbolt young master for the upper grade glove in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land. The reason why he was only slightly stronger than the Thunderbolt young master was because he thought that was enough. Indeed, if Yi Xing did not snatch the food from the tiger's mouth, the Yin Yang young master would be able to force the Thunderbolt young master to retreat and snatch the upper grade glove even though he was only slightly stronger than the Thunderbolt young master. Who would have thought that someone would come out of nowhere and Yi Xing would snatch the superior grade glove from the tiger's mouth in the end? Although the Thunderbolt young master was not as arrogant as the Dark Nether young master, he was arrogant. His strength was stronger than other young masters in the same realm. He had always wanted to challenge the Yin Yang young master. Now, the Yin Yang young master's words were filled with disdain. This made the Thunderbolt young master's face turn green. Flames of anger burned in his eyes. The Thunderbolt young master said, "Yang Ming, don't talk nonsense. When I fought with you in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land, you were only slightly stronger than me. I did not use my full strength then. You want to defeat me with 30% of your strength? That is a fool's dream." The Yin Yang young master released a terrifying aura and said, "You will know if you try." A ray of starlight shot out from the Thunderbolt young master's glabella and turned into a Thunderbolt star. It floated in the air and the Thunderbolt star energy fell. The Thunderbolt young master was bathed in the lightning and his aura surged. The Thunderbolt young master shouted, "I want to see how strong you are. How dare you speak such big words? Take my move, Thunderbolt Break." The thunderous young master struck out with his palm. In an instant, his entire body charged towards the Yin Yang young master. Boom! There was an explosion in the void as young Master Thunderbolt turned into a bolt of lightning. The lightning in front of him was condensed by a powerful bolt of lightning. It was exceptionally resplendent as it broke through the layers of airflow, forming a terrifying shockwave. Everyone's eyes were focused on this moment. The Thunderbolt young master unleashed his strongest attack. However, Yi Xing countered the Thunderbolt young master's attack and defeated him in a single move. Everyone wanted to know how the Yin Yang young master would deal with the Thunderbolt young master's attack. Would he be like Yi Xing, retreating and temporarily avoiding the attack? Would he counterattack when the Thunderbolt young master's attack weakened? The answer was instantly revealed. The Yin Yang young master did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward and faced the Thunder Young Master's thunder light break. Whoosh! The void in front of him shattered instantly as an extremely resplendent ray of light shot forward like a blazing sun. Middle-class spiritual martial art, Scorching Sun Finger. The Yin-Yang Young Master's Scorching Sun Finger was extremely advanced. It was far beyond the great accomplishment stage and was almost close to the perfect stage. The intensity of the ray of light was like a real blazing sun, causing people to be intimidated. Moreover, this finger contained an extremely powerful fire force that was almost close to the intricate stage. It caused the power of this finger to multiply. Yi Xing was startled. He would not be able to block the Yin-Yang Young Master's finger with just his physical strength. It was too terrifying. Bang! The bolt of lightning and the finger ray collided with each other and produced an explosive sound. Terrifying airflow surged in all directions. Lightning splashed and rays of light shot in all directions. The Yin-Yang Young Master and the Thunderbolt Young Master's strength were determined at this moment. The Scorching Sun Finger was extremely resplendent and unstoppable. It scattered the lightning in all directions. The Thunderbolt Young Master's body shook violently and flew backwards. The Thunderbolt Young Master fell to the ground and a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with astonishment. He could not believe that the Yin-Yang Young Master had defeated him with one finger when his thunder light break was at its strongest. The Yin-Yang Young Master looked at the Thunderbolt Young Master on the ground and finally revealed a proud expression. He said, "This is your strongest move. You can't even withstand a single blow." The surroundings were silent. The Yin-Yang Young Master was too powerful. Yi Xing had defeated the Thunderbolt Young Master and even avoided the moment when the Thunderbolt Young Master's move was at its strongest. However, the Yin-Yang Young Master had defeated the Thunderbolt Young Master with one finger when the Thunderbolt Young Master's move was at its strongest. Comparing the two, the Yin-Yang Young Master defeating the Thunderbolt Young Master was undoubtedly more shocking. Moreover, the Yin-Yang Young Master had said that he only needed 30% of his strength to defeat the Thunderbolt Young Master. Did this not mean that the Yin-Yang Young Master had only used 30% of his strength? The martial artists were shocked. Even the senior perfected persons revealed shocked expressions. If the Yin-Yang Young Master unleashed his full strength, how powerful would he be? Many senior perfected persons judged that the Yin-Yang Young Master's strength had already surpassed a 9-star martial sage and could compete with a half-step perfected persons. The Thunderbolt Young Master clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with disbelief as he said, "I don't believe that you only used 30% of your strength." The Yin-Yang Young Master chuckled and said, "It's up to you to believe it or not. Do I need to prove it to you? Which junior martial artist is qualified to make me use my full strength?" The junior martial artists were all silent. The Yin-Yang Young Master's words were looking down on the Tian Luo Young Master. Regardless of whether it was the Tian Luo sect or the Green Thunder sect, the martial artists of the two sects did not look good. As for the martial artists of the Sun Moon sect, their faces were filled with smiles. They were very happy. The judge of the Sun Moon sect said, "Thunderbolt Young Master, you have lost. You may leave." Next, Young Master Dali. Young Master Dali and the Yin-Yang Young Master were both disciples of the Sun Moon sect. One was the second disciple, while the other was the first disciple. It was obvious that the outcome of the battle between the two had been decided long ago. The judge of the Sun Moon sect had allowed Young Master Dali to fight so that he could add points to the Yin-Yang Young Master. As expected, Young Master Dali did not step forward. Instead, he admitted defeat. "I am not a match for eldest senior brother. I admit defeat." The judge of the Sun Moon sect smiled and said, "The Yin-Yang Young Master has won 5 rounds in a row. He has accumulated 5 points and is ranked first. You may go and rest." Yi Xing had 4 points, while the Yin-Yang Young Master had 5 points. It seemed that the judge of the Sun Moon sect did not want to let Yi Xing maintain his temporary first place. The Yin-Yang Young Master and the Thunderbolt Young Master both left the stage. The judge of the Sun Moon sect said, "Young Master Tian Luo, you may come up." The martial artist's eyes lit up. Another heavyweight was coming up. Although the Yin Yang young master had said that none of the junior martial artists could force him to use his full strength, the crowd was still very interested in the battle between the two young masters. Now that young master Tian Luo had entered the stage, they could finally see his strength. In the first 3 rounds of battle, young master Tian Luo's targets were Lei Yun, Ming Shuang, and Luo Ying, the 3 8-star martial saints. Naturally, the 3 of them admitted defeat. Their strength could not be compared to young master Tian Luo's. In the blink of an eye, young master Tian Luo had won 3 rounds in a row. Since young master Tian Luo had not made a move, he naturally would not be allowed to leave the stage. The judge of the Sun Moon sect quickly arranged his 4th opponent. He looked towards the Falling Star sect and said, "Next, Yi Xing." The martial artist's spirits were lifted. The battle between Yi Xing and young master Tian Luo was coming up so soon. Young master Tian Luo was a 9-star martial saint. His cultivation was higher than the other young masters. Naturally, his strength was also higher. He was the 2nd strongest among the young masters. Yi Xing was a 7-star martial saint. He had a heaven-defying battle record of defeating 3 young masters consecutively. His strength was ranked at the top among the young masters. He could definitely compete with young master Tian Luo. Then, between Yi Xing and young master Tian Luo, who was stronger? Many martial artists were looking forward to the result of this battle. This was because the winner of the 2 would fight the Yin Yang young master in the final battle to determine the 1st and 2nd place. Under the gaze of the crowd, Yi Xing walked out and stood in front of young master Tian Luo. "I'm a little tired. Brothers, please give me strength. I beg for monthly votes and recommendation votes." Chapter 325. Young master Tian Luo quietly observed Yi Xing. After a long while, he said, "I didn't expect to have a duel with you so soon. But it's fine. Anyway, we'll have to fight each other. It doesn't matter if it's earlier or later. We'll have to decide the winner." As Sir Tian Luo spoke, a shining spirit weapon appeared in his hand. This was a medium-grade spirit weapon. Of the 6 great young masters, Sir Tian Luo was the only one who hadn't had any conflicts with Yi Xing. Moreover, Sir Tian Luo had spoken out to help the disciples of Thiso. Yi Xing had a good impression of him. Yi Xing faintly smiled. "I ask Sir Tian Luo to give me some pointers." Sir Tian Luo lifted the sword in his hand and said, "This sword is called Cold Star. It is a peak medium-grade spirit weapon and is incomparably sharp. Yi Xing, your bare hands cannot block my sword. Take out the high-grade spirit weapon gloves you obtained in the Blue Cloud Ancient Land and put them on." Yi Xing nodded. He took out the blazing flame gloves and put them on. Yi Xing had obtained 2 high-grade spirit weapons in the Blue Cloud Ancient Land. One was the blazing flame gloves and the other was the black dragon spear. Seeing the blazing flame gloves in Yi Xing's hands, the surrounding martial artists, whether they were seniors or juniors, all revealed looks of envy. Some of them even had greedy eyes. A high-grade spirit weapon was an extraordinary treasure in the Blue Cloud region. Even for Astral Realm martial artists, 70 to 80% of them didn't have a high-grade spirit weapon, they only used medium-grade spirit weapons. But Yi Xing was only a 7-star martial saint and yet he had a high-grade spirit weapon in his hands. How could the surrounding martial artists not be envious? Whether it was the blazing flame gloves or the black dragon spear, both were treasures that aroused the greed of others in the Blue Cloud region. If no one knew that the blazing flame gloves and the black dragon spear were in Yi Xing's hands, then Yi Xing wouldn't have shown them in public. However, Yi Xing had obtained the blazing flame gloves and black dragon spear from the hands of the several young masters. Most of the junior martial artists that entered the Blue Cloud Ancient Land had seen this with their own eyes and had already reported this news to their sect elders. Yi Xing wouldn't be able to conceal it even if he wanted to. Since everyone knew that Yixing had the blazing flame gloves and the black dragon spear, these two high-grade spirit weapons, then, there was no need for Yixing to hide them. Sir Tian Luo was different from the other young masters. Yixing didn't want to fight him with his bare hands. Wearing the blazing flame gloves, Yixing could even face the attack of a high-grade spirit weapon head-on. After Yixing put on the gloves, he lifted his hands and said, "The blazing flame gloves are a high-grade spirit weapon. I obtained them from the Blue Cloud ancient land and this is my first time using them. Your Cold Star sword is only a medium-grade spirit weapon. In terms of weapons, I have the advantage." Sir Tian Luo chuckled and said, "A spirit weapon can only increase the power of star essence, it cannot increase the strength of the mortal body. Even if it is a high-grade spirit weapon, the most it can do is protect your hands from being injured by my Cold Star sword. With the strength of your mortal body, you are not my match." Yixing smiled slowly and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Sir Tian Luo nodded, "Good. Then I'll let you experience my Tian Luo sect's medium-grade spirit weapon, the Star Luo sword." Whoosh! As Sir Tian Luo's voice fell, the Cold Star sword erupted with a dazzling light as it thrust towards Yixing. In that instant, sword light shot out like a cold star, rushing towards Yixing. This sword contained a terrifying sharpness. As this sword thrust forwards, Yixing felt an endless sharpness, as if his body would be cut to pieces by this sword. Heavenly Bat Steps. Yixing moved his feet and performed the Heavenly Bat Steps, which contained the wind force of the Minute Realm. His speed was so fast that it was as if he had teleported, dodging this terrifying sword. Dodging? Sir Tian Luo instantly changed his sword move. His entire body turned into a sword light as he charged towards Yixing again. Tyrant Dragon Fist. Yixing's momentum had accumulated to the extreme. Facing this sword, he no longer dodged, but punched out. Boom! The airflow in front of him exploded with a terrifying explosion. The airflow instantly formed a visible shockwave that blasted towards Sir Tian Luo. In an instant, the shockwave collided with the sword light. Sir Tian Luo's sword light contained a terrifying sharpness. It was incomparably sharp and actually cut the airflow shockwave in half. Clang! First, the sword light collided with Yixing's fist. Then, the Cold Star sword pierced forward. The two spiritual weapons fiercely clashed together. The terrifying collision formed a terrifying shockwave that spread out in all directions. The Cold Star sword was bent by Yixing's punch. However, the power of the Cold Star sword was even more powerful. Visible to the naked eye, the power from the tip of the sword struck towards Yixing layer after layer. Yixing continuously retreated. Dong dong dong, Yixing retreated 7 to 8 steps before stabilizing his body. In this 10 sects tournament, this was the first time Yixing was forced to retreat. Although Yixing also retreated during the battle with Sir Thunder, it was a tactical retreat. It was different from being forced back by the opponent. The crowd was stunned. Yixing's physical strength was finally suppressed by Sir Tian Luo. It seemed that Yixing was unable to defeat Sir Tian Luo and could only be ranked third. Of course, even if Yixing lost to Sir Tian Luo and was ranked third, he would still be the most glorious person in this 10 sects tournament. His achievements would shock everyone. Sir Tian Luo felt the rebounding force from the Cold Star sword and the buzzing sound from the sword. He was shocked by the terrifying power of Yixing's punch. However, no matter what, Yixing's strength was still inferior to his. Sir Tian Luo's face revealed a victorious smile. This was the result he could accept. He was a 9-star martial saint. His cultivation was 1 realm higher than the other young masters. If he was defeated by Yixing, then other than the Yin-Yang young master, Yixing would trample all the other young masters. Although Sir Tian Luo had no grudges with Yixing and they were on the same side, as a young master, he did not want to become Yixing's stepping stone. Young Master Tian Luo smiled and said, "Yixing, your physical strength is indeed very strong, but you're not my match. There's no need to continue this battle, you're bound to lose." Yixing also smiled and said, that is not necessarily true. Who said that my strength only comes from my physical strength? Until now, I have not used my celestial essence or spiritual martial force. The crowd was shocked. Listening to Yixing's tone, his celestial essence strength seemed to be even stronger. Didn't that mean that the result of the battle between Yixing and Sir Tianluo would be confusing? Who was stronger and who was weaker between the two? In the hearts of the crowd, they still favored Sir Tianluo. Sir Tianluo was a 9-star martial saint, 2 realms higher than Yixing. Moreover, he was a young master genius who could challenge people with higher realms. Although Sir Tianluo was a 9-star martial saint and could not challenge half-step Taoist masters, his strength was definitely at the top of the 9-star martial saints and could be called invincible. Most of the cultivators did not believe that Yixing could be Sir Tianluo's opponent. Yixing's physical strength was so terrifying that it shocked the crowd. They attributed it to a fortuitous encounter. If Yixing's celestial essence strength was stronger than his physical strength, then it would be too abnormal. However, many people from the Falling Star sect and the Spirit Moon sect were looking forward to it. They all knew that Yixing could challenge people with higher realms. In the past, when his physical strength was not strong, Yixing could still fight people with higher realms with his celestial essence strength. But now, they could feel the confidence in Yixing's words and felt that it was very possible. Sir Tianluo pointed his sword at Yixing. His aura was incomparably sharp. An illusory chi sword appeared in the sky and pierced the sky. Yixing's words made Sir Tianluo frown slightly. He said, "You mean, your celestial essence strength is stronger than your physical strength?" Yixing nodded, "Of course." While speaking, Yixing's aura soared, and the surrounding air currents shook. The temperature around Yixing suddenly rose. Yixing's body exuded a terrifying flame power. His body emitted an illusory flame that distorted the air. The crowd of cultivators was shocked. What a terrifying flame power! Sir Tianluo stared at Yixing. His sword momentum became stronger and stronger. He said loudly, "You are a 7-star martial saint and have the strength to defeat most 9-star martial saints. This is already the limit. Can your celestial essence strength be stronger than your physical strength? I don't believe it. I don't believe it." These 3 words reverberated in the void. As Sir Tianluo's voice fell, a bright sword light instantly cut through the void. Sir Tianluo had launched his strongest attack. Chapter 326. The spectators' hearts suddenly tightened. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared intently at young Master Tianluo's sword. Young Master Tianluo had already gone all out. Although he did not use his celestial image, he had already erupted with his strongest strength. Compared to his previous attack, its power had doubled. Before, Yixing was only pushed back by young Master Tianluo. Now that young Master Tianluo had gone all out, would Yixing be able to block his sword? Everyone wanted to know the answer. They knew that victory or defeat would be decided in an instant. In the hearts of most of the spectators, they were optimistic about young Master Tianluo. They believed that even if Yixing used his celestial essence, it would be impossible for him to block this sword. The sword light was resplendent as it broke through the air. An incomparably sharp aura locked onto Yixing. Yixing's perception of this sword was 1,000 times, no, 10,000 times clearer than the other spectators. He could feel the power of this sword more than anyone else. However, Yixing's face showed no fear. His posture was like a mountain as the power of fire increased once again. The flames of nothingness around his body instantly became fierce. "Ha!" Yixing shouted. He did not retreat half a step. His right hand formed a fist and met young Master Tianluo's sword with a fierce attack. Boom! The void exploded, shaking the heavens and the earth. With this punch, the celestial essence in Yixing's body instantly transformed into fire's celestial essence. It condensed in front of the fist and turned into a huge flaming fist. This flaming fist did not look much bigger than Yixing's fist. However, it revealed a terrifying aura as if it contained an extremely terrifying power. Among the spectators, the junior martial sages did not feel anything. However, the senior perfected persons were all startled and shocked. Yixing's fist did not condense fist radiance, but fist aura. Astral aura was a grade higher than celestial essence. There was an essential difference between the two, just like the difference between celestial essence and ordinary internal qi. The realm of enlightened masters was called the astral star realm. From this, it could be seen that only after becoming an enlightened master could one condense astral star. In the half-step enlightened master realm, the celestial origin in the body could only transform half of it into astral star. In other words, if a martial artist wanted to cultivate astral energy, they had to be at least a half-step Taoist master. However, Yixing was only a 7-star martial saint. His fist actually contained astral energy. Although the fist aura wasn't very strong and didn't seem to be condensed from celestial essence and couldn't be compared to an enlightened being's astral essence, the enlightened being seniors could tell that the strength of Yixing's fist aura was comparable to a half-step enlightened being's astral essence. A 7-star martial sage's attack had actually condensed astral energy. This was simply shocking. There was only one explanation for this. That was, Yixing had cultivated an upper-level spiritual martial force. An upper-level spiritual martial force required astral energy to be used. It was a powerful martial art that only enlightened beings could cultivate. However, astral energy wasn't the only requirement to use an upper-level spiritual martial force. If one had enough talent in martial arts and had cultivated an upper-level spiritual martial force before becoming an enlightened being, then when using martial arts, the upper-level spiritual martial force would condense the celestial origin in the body into astral energy. Yixing's fist art was the flaming astral fist, which was an upper-level spiritual martial force. His grand momentum of fire was subtle and he had the star fire seed in his body. When he cultivated the flaming astral fist in the Yama fire sea, it was twice the result with half the effort. That was how he succeeded in cultivating the flaming astral fist. At this moment, when he used it, the celestial origin condensed into astral energy, almost like an attack from a half-step enlightened being. Boom! The sword light and the fist aura collided with each other, creating a loud sound. The result was obvious. Yixing's fist aura had the upper hand in the battle. In an instant, the sword light was destroyed and the unstoppable fist landed on the cold star sword in young Master Tianluo's hand. The cold star sword made a crisp sound and was instantly bent into a half-moon shape. Young Master Tianluo's eyes were filled with shock. His body flew backward as if he was being attacked by several fierce horses. Exclamations were heard everywhere. No one had expected that Yixing's celestial origin strength was far superior to those of the same level. He could challenge those of a higher level. Compared to the strength of his body, it was only stronger. Young Master Tianluo was a dignified 9-star martial saint and one of the geniuses. Although he kept a low profile, he didn't pay much attention to opponents other than the Yinyang young master. However, he was sent flying by Yixing's fist. It was really unexpected. Young Master Tianluo retreated dozens of meters and landed on the ground. He took a few steps back before stopping. He looked at Yixing with a horrified expression and said in shock, "Upper-grade spiritual martial art, Flame Aura Fist. You have cultivated the Flame Aura Fist so quickly." Yixing had obtained the secret manual of the Flaming Astral Fist in the Azure Cloud Ancient Land. In such a short time, Yixing had actually managed to cultivate the Flaming Astral Fist. Young Master Tianluo was truly shocked, and his voice was trembling. As a genius, young Master Tianluo knew how difficult it was to cultivate a upper-grade spiritual martial art. Tianluo sect had several upper-grade spiritual martial arts. With young Master Tianluo's status, he was qualified to learn upper-grade spiritual martial arts. However, he had not learned any of them. Only when one became a half-step enlightened being and the celestial origin in the body began to transform into star aura, the difficulty of cultivating a upper-grade spiritual martial art would be reduced. Before becoming a half-step enlightened being, even a genius would find it difficult to cultivate a upper-grade spiritual martial art. Right now, Yixing was only a 7-star martial saint. He was still very far away from becoming a half-step enlightened being. However, he had cultivated the upper-grade spiritual martial art, Flame Aura Fist. This had caused a great impact on young Master Tianluo. This kind of martial talent was simply heaven-defying. Comparing the two, young Master Tianluo doubted whether he was a genius or not. Compared to Yixing's martial talent and heaven-defying fighting strength, young Master Tianluo felt ashamed. Young Master Tianluo laughed at himself and said, "Yixing, I have lost this battle. I have to admit that you are the most monstrous genius I have ever seen in my life. I am deeply impressed." Yixing cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks, young Master Tianluo, for letting me win." In this battle, Yixing won and obtained another point. His total points were 5, tied with the Yin-Yang young master for first place. When the surrounding martial artists saw that young Master Tianluo had directly admitted defeat, they were all shocked. Although Yixing had used Flame Aura Fist to force young Master Tianluo back, young Master Tianluo had yet to use astrology. In the eyes of the martial artists, even if Yixing's martial talent was heaven-defying and he had cultivated the upper-grade spiritual martial art, Flame Aura Fist, his attainment in astrology was not profound. Therefore, if young Master Tianluo had used astrology, he might not have lost to Yixing. The outcome of this battle was related to the second and third place. It was the difference between a reward of 100,000 low-grade star crystals and a reward of 200,000 low-grade star crystals. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, young Master Tianluo returned to the Tianluo sect martial artists. An enlightened being elder of the Tianluo sect said with dissatisfaction, "Luo Lai, this battle is related to the ranking and the reward. You did not use your full strength, why did you admit defeat so quickly? Even if Yixing's martial talent is monstrous and his combat power is shocking, he might not be your opponent now." Chapter 327. After Yixing left the stage, it was the other young masters' turn to fight. The 3 ordinary 8-star martial sages admitted defeat in front of the young master's geniuses. The Thunderbolt young master's strength was indeed superior to the other young masters at the same level. He had defeated the Dark Nether young master and the Great Sun young master consecutively. After young Master Thunder left the stage to rest, young Master Tianluo went up again. His opponents were young Master Dark Nether and young Master Great Sun. Facing the 2 young masters, young Master Tianluo displayed a shocking strength. One sword strike. Whether it was young Master Dark Nether, young Master Great Sun, or young Master Tianluo, all of them only used one sword. After young Master Tianluo and Yixing's battle, young Master Tianluo had been defeated by Yixing and had even admitted defeat. This had caused young Master Tianluo's status in the hearts of many martial artists to drop by a lot. However, no one dared to underestimate the strength that young Master Tianluo had revealed in front of the other young masters. After breaking through to the 9-star martial saint realm, there was indeed a world of difference between his strength and the other young masters. From this, it could be seen that Yixing was able to repel Tianluo and force him to admit defeat. His strength was indeed terrifying. Tianluo young master defeated 2 young masters in a row and went down to rest. Next up was Yin-Yang young master and Dark Nether young master. The Yin-Yang young master's strength was needless to say. Even if the Dark Nether young master used his astrology, the Yin-Yang young master only needed 1 finger to defeat him. The grand competition was nearing its end. Only Yixing and Yin-Yang young master, Yin-Yang young master and Tianluo young master, Tianluo young master and Thunderbolt young master. The heavyweight battles were always at the end. Yin-Yang young master went down to rest. The last 3 battles were between Tianluo young master and Thunder young master. The Thunderclap young master had a very powerful thunder celestial essence. Among the young master geniuses with the same cultivation, he was the strongest. Young Master Tianluo was a 9-star martial saint. Among the young masters, his cultivation was the highest. He was one level higher than young Master Lei Ting. His strength was even more terrifying. All the warriors knew that young Master Tian Luo was stronger. However, they also wanted to know how strong young Master Lei Ting was. How much was the difference between them? This was because, regardless of whether it was the battle with Yi Xing or the Yin Yang Young Master, the Thunder Young Master had always been defeated in one move, making it impossible for others to determine the limits of his strength. Young Master Tian Luo and young Master Lei Ting faced each other from afar. The Thunderbolt young master had a serious expression and was on high alert. After being defeated by Yi Xing and the Yin Yang young master in one move, he swore in his heart that it would never happen a third time. Whoosh! A beam of starlight shot out from young Master Thunderclap's glabella and transformed into a lightning star. From the very beginning, Thunderbolt young master had used his astrology to raise his strength to the peak. His two palms were filled with electricity, and he was about to launch a thunderous attack on young Master Tian Luo. Young Master Tian Luo raised his hand and the cold star sword appeared in his hand. A terrifying sharp qi burst out from his body. His eyes were like swords as they locked onto young Master Thunder. Thunder, light, break. The Thunderbolt young master's aura had finally reached its peak. With a loud shout, he attacked the Tian Luo young master with his palm. He wore a pair of middle-grade spiritual weapon gloves on his hands, so he was not afraid of confronting Tian Luo's cold star sword head-on. At this moment, the gazes of the spectating cultivators were focused to the extreme. They stared at the field, unwilling to even blink. Young Master Thunderbolt's first move was a thunderous attack. When he fought with others, it was usually a single move. The Thunder Light Break was the ultimate move of the Thunder Rush Palm. Young Master Thunderbolt had used this ultimate move against Yi Xing and the Yin Yang Young Master, but he was defeated by Yi Xing and the Yin Yang Young Master in a single move. Now, how would young Master Tian Luo deal with young Master Thunderbolt's move? Would young Master Tian Luo and young Master Thunderbolt also be defeated in a single move? Would young Master Tian Luo be able to defeat young Master Thunderbolt in a single move? Everyone stared intently, wanting to know the answer. When young Master Thunderbolt used the Thunder Light Break to attack, young Master Tian Luo's entire body burst out with dazzling light. The sharp aura cut through the void like a sharp sword. Whoosh! Young Master Tian Luo took a step forward and sword light burst out. His body was like a sword light as he shot into the distance. With a step forward, his body was like a sword. With a flash of sword light, he switched positions. All the spectating cultivators' eyes lit up. It was sword steps. A powerful footwork of a swordsman. Only an outstanding swordsman could comprehend it, and its speed was extremely fast. Young Master Thunderbolt's Thunder Light Break was also very fast. However, it was a straight line speed. Once the attack was launched, it was difficult to change its direction. Therefore, young Master Tian Luo took a step forward and switched positions instantly. Young Master Thunderbolt's palm naturally hit the air. Boom! With a loud explosion, the void in front of them exploded. If it wasn't for the remaining array of the Azure Cloud sect, there would have been a huge hole in the ground. Unfortunately, such a terrifying attack didn't even touch the corner of young Master Tian Luo's clothes. Young Master Thunderbolt's fist hit the air. He felt like an angry bull facing the empty void. He had strength but no place to use it. He was extremely depressed. His aura surged and his eyes were sharp. He searched for young Master Tian Luo's figure and prepared for the next thunderous attack. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, young Master Tian Luo's speed was extremely fast. Every step he took, there was a flash of sword light. He instantly switched positions and stopped at different places. Young Master Thunderbolt's head turned back and forth, but he couldn't lock onto young Master Tian Luo's position. Since he couldn't lock onto young Master Tian Luo's figure, he didn't have a target to attack. The thunderous attack that he prepared couldn't be launched. Even if it was launched, it could only hit the air. It was like punching cotton. Young Master Tian Luo continued to switch positions. The surging power that young Master Thunderbolt had accumulated decreased again and again. When young Master Thunderbolt's power decreased to a certain extent, young Master Tian Luo suddenly attacked young Master Thunderbolt with his sword. Whoosh, the sword light split the air. The void was like a mirror that was cut in half. The sword light flashed, and in the blink of an eye, a resplendent sword light had already arrived beside young Master Thunderbolt. Young Master Tian Luo didn't attack. Once he attacked, his power was like thunder and lightning. Although young Master Thunderbolt's power was formidable, his attack speed was also very fast. However, his reaction speed was his weak point. Young Master Tian Luo suddenly attacked while he was switching positions. The speed of the sword almost exceeded young Master Thunderbolt's reaction speed. Young Master Thunderbolt suddenly felt a sharp aura and felt a chill on his back. He didn't have time to push his thunder and lightning celestial essence to the strongest realm. He could only hurriedly cast the rushing thunder palm and shot it towards young Master Tian Luo. Boom! Since it was a hasty palm attack, the power of the rushing thunder palm at the grand completion realm was extraordinary. A loud explosion resounded in the void. However, young Master Tian Luo's sword was too sharp and terrifying. The sword light broke through the void and the rushing thunder palm split in half. In an instant, the protective celestial essence around young Master Thunderbolt's body was also torn apart by the sword light. Puff! Young Master Thunderbolt spat out a mouthful of blood and suddenly retreated before falling to the ground. That sharp sword light rushed into his body, like numerous tiny sharp swords rampaging through his meridians, flesh, and blood, causing him a burst of intense pain. For a while, young Master Thunderbolt couldn't operate his thunder and lightning celestial essence at all. Young Master Tian Luo's sword light flashed and appeared beside young Master Thunderbolt. The cold star sword turned into a cold light and pointed at young Master Thunderbolt's throat. Young Master Thunderbolt, defeated. The spectating martial artists breathed out a long sigh of relief. Young Master Tian Luo defeated young Master Thunderbolt with only one sword move. Of course, it couldn't be considered as defeating young Master Thunderbolt in one move. Young Master Tian Luo used the speed of his sword steps to dodge young Master Thunderbolt's strongest attack. Then, he slowed down young Master Thunderbolt's momentum and used his extreme speed to attack young Master Thunderbolt's sword move. This could only be regarded as using his own strength to defeat young Master Thunderbolt with minimal effort. Otherwise, young Master Tian Luo might not have defeated young Master Thunderbolt in one sword move. Yi Xing, young Master Tian Luo, and Yin Yang young Master all defeated young Master Thunderbolt with just one move. However, in the hearts of the martial artists, Yin Yang young Master defeated young Master Thunderbolt with just one finger when he was at his strongest. It was the most shocking and showed the strongest strength. Yi Xing retreated first and then defeated young Master Tian Luo head-on, second only to Yin Yang young Master. Young Master Tian Luo dodged many times, but he was second. After the battle ended, the spirit of the martial artists became even more uplifted. The next battle would be between young Master Tian Luo and Yin Yang young Master. Today's second watch is here. It's too late to finish the third watch. Sorry, yesterday's episode will be added to the total. I owe a total of 50 chapters. Tomorrow, I will work hard. It's a day of passion. Although I haven't updated well in the past 2 days, brothers, can you give me a free recommendation ticket? Today is Monday. The Archer God can't even appear on the recommendation list. He has already dropped to the bottom. Please give me a recommendation ticket. Chapter 328. After a short rest, young Master Tian Luo restored his celestial essence to its peak state. The Yin Yang young Master entered the arena, and a new fierce battle was about to begin. Young Master Tian Luo was at a disadvantage in the battle against Yi Xing, so he admitted defeat immediately. This made the crowd feel regretful that they didn't get to see the battle between the two of them with their full strength. This time, young Master Tian Luo had no reason to admit defeat. Hence, it would be a brutal battle with young Master Yin Yang. Although Tian Luo Prince's method of defeating Thunder Prince wasn't as shocking as Yin Yang Prince's, it still displayed a terrifying strength. If Tian Luo Young Master unleashed his full power, Yin Yang Young Master wouldn't be so easy to deal with. It would be an exciting and intense battle. Young Master Tian Luo stood up with the Cold Star sword in his hand. His sword aura soared to the sky. His expression was solemn, and his eyes were as sharp as swords, locking onto young Master Yin Yang. The Yin Yang Young Master wore a pair of middle spiritual martial gloves. However, unlike most pairs of gloves, these two gloves had different colors. One was scarlet red and had a fiery aura, while the other was frosty white and had a frosty aura. This pair of gloves was very famous in the Qingyun area. They were known as the Ice Fire Gloves. The Yin Yang Young Master possessed the astrology of the same origin as fire and water. The inheritance and martial arts he cultivated also contained the two attributes of water and fire. The Ice Fire Gloves in his hands were almost as powerful as a high-grade spirit weapon. Yin Yang Young Master looked at young Master Tian Luo with an indifferent expression. He was much more relaxed than young Master Tian Luo. There was a hint of arrogance in his eyes. Apparently, he didn't consider young Master Tian Luo a strong opponent. The Yin Yang Young Master said, "Luo Lai, before me, you should use your astrology first. You can only fight me with your full strength." Tian Luo's eyes narrowed as he said, "If you don't use your astrology, don't even think about forcing me to use my astrology." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Tian Luo took a step forward and disappeared with a flash of sword light. Tian Luo displayed his sword steps. In the blink of an eye, he changed his position, moving so fast that it was almost invisible. Aside from Yi Xing, none of the junior martial sages watching the battle could see young Master Tian Luo's figure clearly. Whoosh! 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 Tian Luo Young Master moved to different positions and attacked Yin Yang Young Master 3 times. Young Master Tian Luo waved his sword and retreated. He didn't follow up to attack. Instead, he sent out 3 streaks of sword light that traveled dozens of meters towards young Master Yin Yang. Because young Master Tian Luo changed his position too quickly, the 3 sword lights appeared almost at the same time even though they attacked at different times. They tore through the void and attacked young Master Yin Yang from different directions. Facing Tian Luo Young Master's sword attack, Yin Yang Young Master remained calm. He didn't even bat an eyelid as he waved his hand 3 times. 3 finger glows were fired instantly, shattering the 3 sword glows into pieces. Young Master Tian Luo had expected that the 3 sword lights would not be able to threaten young Master Yin Yang. Therefore, he did not attack him directly. Instead, he sent out sword lights from afar to harass young Master Yin Yang. Young Master Tian Luo knew that he would be at a disadvantage if he fought against Yin Yang Young Master head-on, so he used his advantage to confuse Yin Yang Young Master with his sword steps. However, Yin Yang Young Master's reaction speed was much faster than young Master Lei Ting's. Young Master Tian Luo didn't dare to attack recklessly. Instead, he harassed Yin Yang Young Master first. When Yin Yang Young Master treated his attack as a form of harassment, young Master Tian Luo would attack with all his strength at a certain moment. However, young Master Tian Luo couldn't complete his plan. When Yin Yang Young Master shattered young Master Tian Luo's sword light for the second time, his body suddenly turned into a phantom and shot towards a certain direction. Whoosh! Yin Yang Young Master pointed his finger. A dazzling light that was as dazzling as the scorching sun contained a terrifying power. Young Master Tian Luo used his sword steps to change his position. However, this time, young Master Tian Luo changed his position to Yin Yang Young Master's attack position. Yin Yang Young Master's attack speed was too fast. The finger light arrived almost at the same time as young Master Tian Luo's figure. No matter how fast young Master Tian Luo's sword steps were, he couldn't avoid the attack. Young Master Tian Luo wanted to attack Yin Yang Young Master at a certain moment. However, he didn't expect Yin Yang Young Master to attack him first. Since he couldn't dodge, he could only block. His sword light was like a cold star. It burst out and collided with the finger light. Ding! A piercing sound was heard. Intense airflow splashed in all directions. The sound of something breaking through the void could be heard. Young Master Tian Luo's body suddenly shook. The cold star sword bent and shot backwards. Young Master Tian Luo's feet landed on the ground. However, he couldn't stop the terrifying power. In the blink of an eye, he was pushed back dozens of meters before he could stabilize his body. Many warriors who were watching the battle gasped. Young Master's attack power was terrifying. Young Master Tian Luo's swordsmanship power was obvious to all. However, he was pushed back dozens of meters by Young Master's finger. I'm not an idiot like Lei Bao. Your move is useless against me. Young Master sneered. He didn't give young Master Tian Luo a chance to catch his breath. As he spoke, he used his scorching sun finger and continued to attack young Master Tian Luo. The finger light was dazzling and scorching. It was like a scorching sun. People couldn't look at it directly. It contained a terrifying power. Whoosh! Facing Young Master's powerful attack, young Master Tian Luo couldn't withstand it. A ray of starlight shot out from his glabella. He had used his astrology. A huge shining star floated above young Master Tian Luo. It was a superior metal attribute astrology. It contained a terrifying murderous aura and a sharp aura. Terrifying metal attribute star power fell and was integrated into young Master Tian Luo's sword move. Young Master Tian Luo's power multiplied, especially the sharpness of his sword light. It was terrifying. Wherever it passed, the airflow was cut open like tofu. Even Young Master's finger light was split apart by young Master Tian Luo's sword light. Ding 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 ding, as the sword and finger collided, a series of crisp sounds rang out. Young Master Tian Luo used his astrology and his power was indeed incomparable. Not only did he block Young Master's scorching sun finger, he also gained the upper hand and started to counterattack. In an instant, there was only a terrifying murderous aura left within a few hundred meters. The sharp chi sword moved in all directions. It made people's hearts beat rapidly. Young Master retreated a few steps under young Master Tian Luo's terrifying sword move. Many warriors were surprised. Was Young Master going to lose? Of course, most warriors didn't think so. Young Master had not used his astrology. His astrology was of the same origin as fire and water. It was extremely terrifying. In the eyes of the warriors, Young Master could only use his astrology to turn the situation around and have the hope of defeating young Master Tian Luo. However, Young Master's choice was out of the expectations of the warriors. Even though he was at a disadvantage, Young Master still didn't use his astrology. Suddenly, a cold aura emerged from his left hand and he performed another martial technique. Middle-class spiritual martial technique, cold palm. Young Master was multitasking. He performed two martial techniques at the same time. The scorching sun finger on his right hand and the chilling palm on his left. Young Master had cultivated both the scorching sun finger and the chilling palm to a very high level. He was only one step away from the perfection stage. These two martial techniques, one yin and one yang, complemented each other. When performed, their power was multiplied. Under the overlapping attacks of the scorching sun finger and the chilling yin palm, young Master Tian Luo's sword radiance was shattered. His sword move was torn apart by the terrifying power and instantly weakened. In just a few moves, the situation was completely reversed. The Young Master had the upper hand. Scorching sun finger. Chilling palm. Young Master was multitasking. The power of the two martial techniques was terrifying. Under the combination of his two martial techniques, he was even more powerful than the two Young Masters. In less than 10 moves, young master Tian Luo was defeated by the Yin Yang young master's two martial techniques. The scorching sun finger shook off the cold star sword and the chilling Yin palm pressed on young master Tian Luo's chest. In an instant, young master Tian Luo was frozen into an ice man and flew back dozens of meters. Yin Yang young master had won 7 battles. Just like Yi Xing, he had accumulated 7 points. There was only one battle left in the 10-sec tournament, the battle between Yi Xing and the Yin Yang young master. Whoever could win 8 out of 8 battles would become the champion of the 10-sec tournament. The loser would be ranked second. His recommendation vote had dropped to the 32nd place in the fantasy category. Could it get any worse? I beg for a recommendation vote. Chapter 329. Although the martial artists thought that the Yin Yang young master was stronger, they were still shocked by the defeat of the Yin Yang young master. The martial artists did not expect that the Yin Yang young master would defeat the Yin Yang young master without even using his astrology. The martial artists were amazed by the Yin Yang young master's ability to multitask and display the Yin and Yang spiritual martial arts at the same time. Although the more a martial artist cultivated, the more powerful his mind became. It was not strange for a martial saint to multitask. However, it was too shocking to display 2 martial arts at the same time in a fierce battle. Most martial sages were capable of multitasking. However, they were only capable of multitasking and doing relatively simple things at the same time. The difficulty of executing martial techniques at the same time in battle was too high. Not to mention martial sages, even enlightened masters would find it difficult to accomplish. Moreover, the Yin Yang young master's scorching sun finger and cold Yin palm were martial arts of different attributes. When he displayed them at the same time, the star essence in his body would be divided into 2 attributes, which would conflict with each other. If there was no way to balance them, even if he had the ability to display 2 spiritual martial arts, he would not be able to display 2 opposite attributes. This was closely related to the Yin Yang young master's astrology of the same origin of water and fire. Therefore, it was not only the Yin Yang young master's talent, but also his innate condition. Most of the martial artists had only heard of the Yin Yang young master's reputation and knew that he was powerful. However, they did not know how powerful he was. Today, they finally understood. The Yin Yang young master could display 2 spiritual martial arts at the same time. His combat strength was superior to any other young master of the same realm. Coupled with his martial arts talent and the special astrology of the same origin of water and fire, the other young masters could not compare to him. After witnessing the Yin Yang young master's strength, the martial artists felt relieved. Why was the Yin Yang young master ranked first even though his cultivation was the lowest among the young masters? His monstrous talent was indeed a level higher than the other young masters. Young master Tian Luo was defeated and retreated. The battle came to an end. However, the martial artist's enthusiasm did not diminish. Instead, it surged and became more energetic. Because the next battle was the final battle of the 10-sex grand competition. It would determine the first and second place, which attracted the attention of the martial artists. Of course, the Yin Yang young master had defeated young master Tian Luo without using his astrology. The Yin Yang young master was almost certain that he would be the champion of the 10-sex grand competition. However, they still wanted to know how strong Yi Xing had forced young master Tian Luo to admit defeat. How powerful young master's Tian Luo was. Whether young master Tian Luo's decision to admit defeat was a wise decision or a foolish one, it could be seen from Yi Xing's performance. Tian Luo young Tian Luo. Yi young master, Tian Luo had Tian Luo young master. Tian Luo young Tian Luo's was master. Young master Tian Luo was Luo master. Young master. The battle between Yi Xing and the Yin Yang young master began after a while. The Yin Yang young master adjusted his breath for a while and recovered to his peak state. The martial artists of the Fallen Star sect looked at Yi Xing with excitement. Regardless of the outcome of the battle, Yi Xing was at least in the second place. He would receive double the rewards of the third place and obtain the best ranking in the history of the 6 southern sects. Moreover, there was a glimmer of hope in Lu Tianyuan's eyes. What if Yixing defeated the Yinyang young master and won the 10 sects grand competition? What kind of surprise would that be? Although Lu Tianyuan had seen the Yinyang young master's strength and felt that the chances of Yixing winning the first place were slim, as the sect leader of the Fallen Star sect, he could not help but think about it. What kind of glory would it be for a disciple of the Fallen Star sect to win the 10 sects grand competition in the Qingyun region? What kind of miracle would it be? Lu Tianyuan was thrilled and excited just thinking about it. In the field, Yixing and the Yinyang young master stood facing each other. The disciples of the Sun Moon sect and the Dark Nether sect clenched their fists tightly as they stared at Yixing. This was especially true for the Dark Nether young master and the Dark Nether young master. Originally, the 10 sects grand competition was supposed to be an elimination round. However, the Sun Moon sect and the Dark Nether sect had changed it to a point competition. The purpose was to deal a blow to Yixing. Unfortunately, the Dark Nether young master and the Dark Nether young master were defeated by Yixing. Not only did they fail to wipe away the humiliation in the Azure Cloud ancient land, but they had also become Yixing's stepping stones and were trampled on by Yixing. This caused the disciples of the two sects to hate Yixing to the core. Now, it was finally time for the battle between Yixing and the Yinyang young master. Naturally, they would not take their eyes off Yixing as they looked forward to the scene of the Yinyang young master beating Yixing up. The Yinyang young master glared at Yixing coldly as flames of anger burned in his eyes. His anger toward Yixing was not only because the Dark Nether young master and the Dark Nether young master were defeated by Yixing, but it was also because of the humiliation of being chased by the Fire Cloud Lion in the Azure Cloud ancient land. The Yinyang young master was a peerless genius. He was a monstrous genius that only appeared once in 1,000 years in the Azure Cloud region. He did not even care about the other young masters who were as famous as him. No matter where he went, he would always be the center of attention. However, in the Azure Cloud ancient land, he was chased by Yixing's Fire Cloud Lion like a stray dog. The Yinyang young master engraved this grudge in his heart and swore to take revenge on Yixing. The Yinyang young master said, "Brat. It's finally your turn. You meeting me is like the winter snow meeting the spring sun. Your end is here. I will repay you tenfold for the humiliation you gave me, the Dark Nether young master, and the Dark Nether young master. Today, before everyone's eyes, I will torture you like a dead dog." The Yinyang young master's voice was bone-chilling. It was like a knife scraping against one's ears. It was very harsh. The martial artists' spirits were lifted. The duel between the two of them would not end as easily as the previous duels. The martial artists of the Sun Moon sect and the Dark Nether sect revealed a sinister look in their eyes. They could not wait to see the Yinyang young master ruthlessly torture Yixing and wipe away the humiliation in their hearts. As for the martial artists of the except for Qi Jingyang, who was secretly excited, most of them frowned. Lu Tianyuan sent a celestial essence sound transmission to Yixing. "Yixing, you have broken the highest record of the southern 6 sects and won enough glory for our sect. The Yinyang young master will not take this battle lying down. If you are not confident, you can admit defeat directly to avoid being humiliated. Sect master, rest assured. Yixing knows what he is doing." After Yixing sent a celestial essence sound transmission to Lu Tianyuan, he said to the Yinyang young master, "You speak as if you are stronger than me. Torture me. Are you qualified?" Yixing's words made the expressions of all the martial artists stunned. Listening to Yixing's tone, it seemed that the Yinyang young master's strength was not enough to defeat him. This immediately attracted the interest of all the martial artists. They couldn't help but wonder whether Yixing was just spouting nonsense, or did he really have unimaginable heaven-defying strength? The Yinyang young master's face suddenly turned ashen. He regarded Yixing as an opponent on the same level as the Tian Lua young master, so he didn't put him in his eyes at all. He thought that he could defeat Yixing without using his astrology. Therefore, the initiative of this battle was in his hands. He could torture Yixing however he wanted. However, listening to Yixing's tone, it seemed that he didn't put him in his eyes at all. The Yin-Yang young master looked down on Yixing and thought that it was natural. But when Yixing looked down on the Yin-Yang young master, the Yin-Yang young master felt as if he had been greatly insulted and suddenly became furious. The Yin-Yang young master said, "I am the #1 genius of the Qingyun region in 1,000 years. As an 8-star martial saint, my strength is comparable to a half-step perfected one. You are only a 7-star martial saint. Even if you have the same strength as me, you are still unable to withstand a single blow from me. You will be tortured like a dead dog." Yixing laughed and said, "#1 genius? A genius who has been surpassed can also be called the #1 genius. Don't you think it's funny?" The Yin-Yang young master said disdainfully, "You surpass me? Are you qualified?" The Yin-Yang young master copied Yixing's tone and returned the insult. Yixing was not angry. His expression was indifferent and calm as he said, "In terms of cultivation, you became a 7-star martial saint at the age of 20, and I became a 7-star martial saint at the age of 17. In terms of strength, I will let you know that there is always someone better than you. The #1 genius, ha! Begging for a free recommendation ticket. Begging with tears." He had surpassed the Yin-Yang young master when he was a 7-star martial sage. This already shocked all the cultivators. Not to mention that Yixing's current strength surpassed the Yin-Yang young master's, just reaching the same level as the Yin-Yang young master was already hard to believe. This meant that a 7-star martial saint had the strength of a half-step Taoist master. If he was even stronger, this was simply a fantasy. Therefore, even though Yixing appeared to be full of confidence, under the rational thinking of all the martial practitioners, they still couldn't believe that Yixing was a match for the Yin-Yang young master. Since they didn't believe in Yixing's strength, the martial practitioners had to find a reason for Yixing's confidence. Naturally, most of the martial practitioners thought that Yixing was spouting nonsense. Only a small portion of the martial practitioners believed in Yixing. They thought that since Yixing dared to say such words, he must have a lot of confidence. For example, Tian Luo. Although Tian Luo didn't understand how Yixing's strength could surpass the Yin-Yang young master, he believed that Yixing wouldn't spout nonsense. Young master Tian Luo was most satisfied with himself, not because of his cultivation talent, not because of his powerful strength, but because of his foresight. He didn't understand why Yixing was so strong, but he was sure that Yixing's future achievements would be extraordinary. Perhaps, the title of the #1 genius of the Qingyun region will change hands from today onwards. Tian Luo thought in his heart. He stared at Yixing, trying to figure out what was going on. The Yin-Yang young master was famous for his fighting prowess. He had been called the #1 genius of the Qingyun region for several years. Along the way, he had defeated many opponents with higher cultivation than him. This gave him a strong belief that he was invincible. His confidence wouldn't be shaken by Yixing's words. The Yin-Yang young master said coldly, "Who doesn't know how to spout nonsense? Since you are so confident, why don't we make a bet?" Yixing said indifferently, "What are we betting on?" The Yin-Yang young master revealed a sinister smile and said, "Whoever loses will slap himself 10 times. For each slap, he will say that he is a lowly pig or dog. How about it?" The Yin-Yang young master was full of confidence as if victory was in his hands. He said, "The elders of the top 10 sects of the Qingyun region and the most outstanding junior martial saints can be witnesses. Yixing, do you dare to bet?" Yixing's eyebrows twitched. The Yin-Yang young master was so confident that he could win against Yixing. This made Yixing even more cautious. However, Yixing only thought about it for a moment before he became even more confident. He was very clear about Yixing's strength. If he used his full combat prowess, no one below the sage level would be able to defeat him. Even if the Yin-Yang young master had some trump cards, he would definitely not be Yixing's match. Unless, the yin-yang young master had some means to deal with a sage. When the cultivators saw that Yixing was silent and the yin-yang young master was in high spirits and full of confidence, they became even more certain that the yin-yang young master would win. Yixing pondered for a moment before he said, "This battle forbids the use of formations, forbids the use of forbidden artifacts, and forbids the interference of outsiders. If we can do this, then why wouldn't I dare to fight with our true strength?" The yin-yang young master was slightly surprised that Yixing dared to do this. However, he was even more pleasantly surprised. If Yixing wanted to defeat him, he would need to have the strength to fight 3 cultivation realms above him. The yin-yang young master absolutely didn't believe that Yixing was that strong. Therefore, the yin-yang young master was 100% sure that he would win this battle. If he defeated Yixing and Yixing admitted defeat, it would be a little unreasonable for him to continue humiliating Yixing in the 10-sect grand tournament. However, as long as Yixing agreed to this bet and Yixing lost, he would have to follow the rules of the bet and slap himself 10 times and call himself a lowly pig or dog 10 times. Only then could the yin-yang young master vent the hatred in his heart. The yin-yang young master revealed a sinister smile and said, "This is the duel of the 10-sect grand tournament. It is a competition of one's own strength. Of course, formations, forbidden artifacts, and outsiders are not allowed to interfere. Since this is the case, let's bet. Everyone here can bear witness." Yixing nodded and said, "Let's bet. There are sage seniors and martial sages of the same generation present. They can all bear witness. If someone loses, don't go back on your words and be ridiculed by everyone in the Qingyun region." The yin-yang young master snorted and said, "This is exactly what I want to say to you. Kid, you are dead today. Lose for me." As soon as he finished speaking, the yin-yang young master unleashed 2 different terrifying auras. One was scorching hot and the other was icy cold. Scorching sun finger. Cold yin palm. In an instant, the yin-yang young master was multitasking. He performed 2 middle spiritual martial skills, one yin and one yang, and attacked Yixing. The power of the scorching sun finger and the cold yin palm overlapped. It was not as simple as 1 + 1. The combination of yin and yang contained an extremely terrifying power, as if it was going to destroy everything in front of it. Yixing clenched his fist and a terrifying power burst out from his body. A series of bone-cracking sounds came from his body. At the same time, a scorching aura burst out from Yixing's body. Yixing yelled and swung his fist forward. He performed an upper spiritual martial skill, Flaming Aura Fist, and faced the yin-yang young master's terrifying attack head-on. All the martial artists' eyes widened at this moment, their pupils dilated as they stared intently at the battlefield. As soon as the battle began, the 2 of them would actually engage in a head-on collision. Who was stronger and who was weaker would be revealed in a single move. Boom! The flaming aura fist collided with the scorching sun finger and the cold yin palm, creating an earth-shattering explosion. A terrifying power of alternating hot and cold rushed over. Yixing felt like he was being charged by a wild horse. His body shook and he was instantly pushed back. In the blink of an eye, Yixing was pushed back dozens of meters. Luckily, his body was strong and he had already controlled his body in the air. After he landed, he took a few steps back and stopped steadily. He did not fall to the ground and was not injured. However, the martial artists still cried out in surprise. The yin-yang young master was so powerful. In one move, he had pushed Yixing back. It was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. This battle seemed to be a foregone conclusion. The yin-yang young master laughed disdainfully. "This is the power you are so proud of." As he laughed, the yin-yang young master rushed towards Yixing like a phantom. He attacked again with the scorching sun finger on his right hand and the cold yin palm on his left. Third update, please give me a free recommendation ticket. Chapter 331. Heavenly Bat Steps. Yixing took a step forward and disappeared in a flash. He had switched positions in an instant. Boom 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 boom, the Yin Young Master attacked like lightning. Scorching Sun Finger and Cold Yin Palm attacked continuously. His attacks were hot and cold at the same time. However, Yixing's heavenly bat steps, which had reached the perfection stage, combined with the Tittle Realm's wind momentum, made him unbelievably fast. He was even faster than the Tian Luo Young Master's sword steps. Even though the Yin Young Master's attacks were ferocious, he could not even touch the corner of Yixing's clothes after 10 moves. Yixing's speed is so fast. Many of the younger martial sages among the spectators exclaimed. Yixing's speed was so fast that they could not even see his figure clearly. Even some of the older perfected persons were secretly surprised. It was shocking that a martial sage could reach such a speed. The Yin Young Master attacked more than 10 times, but there was no effect. He immediately retreated and said coldly, "Coward, you only know how to dodge. Do you dare to fight me head-on? If you don't, why don't you admit defeat and slap yourself 10 times? Yixing's heavenly bat steps had reached the perfection stage. Combined with the Tittle Realm's wind momentum, he was not only fast, but also unpredictable. Unlike the Tian Luo Young Master's sword steps, the Yin Young Master could not see the direction of Yixing's footwork and could not determine where Yixing would land next. He could only use words to force Yixing to fight him head-on. Yixing stood a few hundred meters away and said, "What's the hurry? I was just warming up. You can't beat me in speed, so you can't beat me head-on either." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Yixing exploded with a terrifying fire momentum. He performed the flaming dipper fist and punched out, attacking the Yin Young Master. Containing the Tittle Realm's fire momentum, Yixing's flaming dipper fist was much more powerful. When the Yin Young Master saw that Yixing had taken the initiative to attack, he didn't think much of Yixing, even though his aura seemed stronger than before. In his opinion, if Yixing really had the strength to contend against him, he would not have been instantly pushed back by him just now, nor would he have been able to continuously dodge his attacks. Good! The Yin Young Master roared, and the force of water and force of fire burst out. His right hand's ardent sun finger and left hand's cold Yin palm attacked again. His momentum was like Mount Tai pressing down on Yixing. Most of the warriors watching the battle had the same opinion as the Yin Young Master. They thought that Yixing was seeking his own death by initiating the attack. He would be defeated by the Yin Young Master's combined attack. However, some of the martialists who had an extremely profound understanding of the forces of heaven and earth revealed looks of surprise. They could clearly feel that the force of fire contained in Yixing's punch was extraordinary. The power of this punch seemed to have increased qualitatively. When the fist force collided with the finger radiance and the palm radiance, there was a deafening explosion. Most of the warriors thought that Yixing would be instantly sent flying by the Yin Young Master, but the reality shocked them. Yixing's punch was unbelievably powerful. It was not at a disadvantage even when it collided with the Yin Young Master's combined attack. Boom! Yixing did not retreat half a step. In the blink of an eye, he threw out another punch. The fist force was resplendent, and its power was even stronger. Its momentum was like thunder, and its speed was like lightning. The air vibrated and transformed into waves that rushed forward. The Yin Young Master was shocked. He used the ardent sun finger on his right hand and the cold Yin palm on his left hand at the same time. They attacked fiercely and collided with Yixing's fist force. The result shocked him again. The fist force shook but did not disperse. Instead, his ardent sun finger radiance and cold Yin palm radiance were instantly shattered by the fist force. In an instant, Yixing had turned the tables. The terrifying fist force attacked forward. Its power shook the heavens. The scorching aura surged in all directions. Its momentum was like a landslide and a tsunami. It was unstoppable. Facing Yixing's powerful attack, the Yin Young Master had to retreat a step to avoid the attack. Boom, boom 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 boom, every time Yixing threw out a punch, there would be a loud explosion that shook the heavens and the earth. After a few punches, there were continuous explosions. Every time the yin-yang young master retreated a step, Yixing would take a step forward. The terrifying fiery fist forced the yin-yang young master to retreat step by step. Looking at the scene, the warriors who were certain that the yin-yang young master would win against Yixing were all shocked. They could not believe that Yixing's power had suddenly multiplied. He had overshadowed the yin-yang young master in one move. If this continued, the yin-yang young master would be suppressed and forced to retreat. Anyone could see that something was wrong. With every step the yin-yang young master retreated, the yin-yang young master's aura weakened. With every step Yixing took, the yin-yang young master's aura grew stronger. If this continued, in less than 10 moves, the disparity between the two's auras would reach an extreme level. The yin-yang young master would not be far from defeat. The yin-yang young master revealed a horrified expression. He had also comprehended the power of fire. He could clearly feel that his power of fire was being suppressed by Yixing's power of fire. Could it be that his power of fire has reached the minute realm? Sensing the horrifying power of Yixing's fist force, the yin-yang young master could not help but guess a terrifying fact. Normally, one could only comprehend the minute realm after reaching the advanced veritable personage realm. Even a genius would be pretty good if they could comprehend it before becoming a 7-star veritable personage. However, Yi Liang was only a 7-star martial sage. How could he comprehend the power of fire to the minute realm? Even though the yin-yang young master guessed it, he did not dare to believe it. He was also a martial technique genius with high comprehension ability. He was only an 8-star martial sage. Be it the ardent sun finger or the cold yin palm, he had already cultivated them to near perfection. It was precisely because of his high comprehension ability that he had a deep understanding of the power of water and the power of fire. However, the yin-yang young master's power of fire was still far from reaching the minute realm. Thus, he did not dare to believe that Yixing had already comprehended it to that level. Regardless of whether the yin-yang young master believed it or not, his description became increasingly grim. He could clearly feel that Yixing's aura was accumulating increasingly stronger. Thus, the power contained in the fist force was also becoming increasingly horrifying. If this continued, he would be suppressed to death by Yixing. Yixing, do you really think that you are a match for me? Today, I will let you experience this young master's astral form of the same origin of water and fire. The yin-yang young master shouted, and a beam of starlight shot out from his forehead, hovering above him. It was a star that was half fire and half sea. This star was of the same origin of water and fire. It was half fire and half sea. It was very obvious. Furthermore, this astral form contained two types of astral powers. One was water and the other was fire. Although it looked like a single astral form, in reality, the yin-yang young master's astral form was no different from a dual astral form. This was the most terrifying aspect of him. Once he used his astral form, it was as if he was using two astral forms. It was extremely powerful. Yixing, even if your strength is comparable to that of the most ordinary half-step perfected persons, you will not be able to withstand a single blow from my astral form of the same origin of water and fire. The yin-yang young master shouted loudly. His martial arts did not change. It was still the scorching sun finger in his right hand and the cold yin palm in his left. He attacked Yixing. The martial arts did not change, but the power had greatly changed. Even though Yixing had used the minute realm's power of fire into his flaming fist force, he could still feel the terror of the yin-yang young master's attack. His opponent's attack was so powerful that it was difficult for him to withstand it. Heavenly bat steps. Yixing decisively gave up on clashing head-on with the yin-yang young master. In an instant, his body moved like lightning and dodged to the side. Whoosh! At the same time, a ray of starlight shot out from between Yixing's eyebrows. In an instant, it turned into a blazing star that floated in the air. Yixing also used his astral form. His flame astral form had absorbed enough flame essence in the sea of flames. It had been raised to the limit of a superior grade astral form. The flame astral power it contained was extremely terrifying. In terms of grade, Yixing's flame astral form was a level higher than the Yin-Yang Young Master's waterfire astral form. Above it was the superior grade astral form. However, in terms of power, the Yin-Yang Young Master's waterfire astral form was stronger. After all, the Yin-Yang Young Master's astral form contained two types of astral power. Water and fire were of the same origin. It was almost equivalent to two astral forms. All the spectating ancient martial art practitioners stared unblinkingly at Yixing and the Yin-Yang Young Master. Both of them had used their astral forms. This was already a battle of peak strength. Kid, it's useless even if you hide. Once I use my waterfire astral form, even half-step perfected persons will have few opponents. Lose for me. Ha! After using the waterfire astral form, the Yin-Yang Young Master was full of confidence. He laughed maniacally as he attacked Yixing. Fourth update, please recommend me. Keep up the good work, I'll give you the fifth update later. Chapter 332. Yixing activated his super brain to scan. He knew how powerful the Yin-Yang Young Master's attack was. Although his fire astral aspect was of a higher level, its power was still inferior to his opponent's. Therefore, even with the surging star force of the fire astral aspect infused into his flaming dipper fist, it was still difficult for him to fight the Yin-Yang Young Master head-on. However, Yixing did not dodge the Yin-Yang Young Master's terrifying attack. With his super brain, not only could he detect the power of his opponent's attack, but he could also detect the weakness of his opponent's attack. The Yin-Yang Young Master's scorching sun finger and cold Yin palm were close to perfection and had very few weaknesses. However, the Yin-Yang Young Master was multitasking. His combination of the scorching sun finger and cold Yin palm was not flawless. In an instant, Yixing found the weakness of the Yin-Yang Young Master's combination of the two spiritual martial arts. Although it was not enough to defeat his opponent in one move, it was enough to attack the weak point and fight head-on. Flaming Dipper Fist. The star force of the fire astral aspect caused Yixing's flaming dipper fist to become even more powerful. When he punched out, the void in front of him turned into a terrifying shockwave. Such a terrifying punch landed on the weak point of the Yin-Yang Young Master's combination of the two spiritual martial arts. One could imagine the destruction it caused. Even though the Yin-Yang Young Master was under the protection of his fire and water astral aspect, he did not dare to underestimate it. Boom 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 boom, Yixing punched out again and again. The two of them exchanged punches and palms, attacking with their fingers and blocking with their fists. It was a very intense fight. The surrounding martial artists looked at the two of them in shock. This was the attack of the two of them at their peak. It was indeed terrifying. At this moment, everyone thought that it was a wise decision for Tian Luo to admit defeat against Yixing. At this moment, young Master Tian Luo was also looking at Yixing. He could see that Yixing was at a disadvantage at this moment. However, he had a premonition that Yixing had more tricks up his sleeve. The Yin-Yang Young Master was extremely depressed. He could clearly feel that his attack power was much stronger than Yixing's. However, every time Yixing's Flame Gang fist attacked, it would hit the weak points of the Yin-Yang Young Master's two spiritual martial arts. That was the weakest point of the Yin-Yang Young Master's attack. Thus, even though Yixing's attack power was much weaker than his, he was still able to fight him head-on. The Yin-Yang Young Master's explosive strength was even more powerful. He could clearly crush Yixing with absolute strength, but every time Yixing attacked, he would hit his weak spot. Even though he had great strength, he couldn't display the effects that he should have. Even though the Yin-Yang Young Master had the upper hand in the battle, he was still extremely sullen. It was only at this moment that he realized that Yixing was actually such a difficult opponent to defeat. He attached sufficient importance to Yixing and did not dare to underestimate him in the slightest. The Yin-Yang Young Master was alert. As he used the scorching sun finger and the cold Yin palm, he tried his best to reduce the weak points between the two spiritual martial arts so that Yixing could hit his weak spot. However, it was extremely difficult to use two spiritual martial arts at the same time. It would take a long time to eliminate the weak points between the two spiritual martial arts. Thus, the yin-yang young master could only try his best to hide the weak points. However, Yixing was always able to accurately attack the weak points at the first moment. This made the yin-yang young master feel that he could not use his full strength. However, the yin-yang young master's method was not completely useless. As the weak points between the two spiritual martial arts became more and more hidden, it became more and more difficult for Yixing to hit them. The battle became more and more serious. If they continued to fight like this, Yixing would definitely be defeated. As the two fought head-on, their attacks were as fast as lightning. Soon, they had exchanged more than 30 moves. At this moment, Yixing suddenly attacked fiercely and his body retreated rapidly. He used the sky bat steps and instantly retreated hundreds of meters away. The yin-yang young master's lips curled up in a proud smile. He said, "Boy, you're finally at your limit. Although you are stronger than I expected, you cannot change the result. Today, you will lose." Yixing's expression was indifferent. He took off the blazing flame gloves and placed them into his storage ring. Then, he lifted his right hand and a black spirit spear appeared in his grasp. The black spirit spear was pitch black and even the spearhead was forged from spirit crow gold. It exuded a powerful aura. 2 dragon phantoms were carved into the spear shaft. As Yixing held it in his hands, he could feel the terrifying strength contained within. High-grade spirit spear, black dragon spear. Seeing the black dragon spear in Yixing's hands, the martial artist's pupils shrank. Many of them bloomed with a sharp light. A high-grade spiritual martial art was extremely rare and yet Yixing actually had 2 of them. The black dragon spear also came from the ancient Azure Cloud land. Everyone knew that Yixing would naturally use it whenever he needed to. Yixing grasped the black dragon spear in his right hand and pointed it towards the heavens. He faintly smiled as he looked at the yin-yang young master. Yixing said, "You might not know, but I don't specialize in palm skills. In truth, what I specialize in is spear skills. I was just playing around with you just now." The yin-yang young master's smile instantly froze. Yixing had fought with him for so long, but that was actually just playing around? It wasn't just the yin-yang young master whose smile froze. Most of the spectating martial artists were shocked. In particular, the martial artists of the Sun-Moon sect and Profound Underworld sect. As they saw the yin-yang young master gain the upper hand and was about to win, they were all overjoyed. But as they heard Yixing's words, they were all stunned. With a spear in hand, Yixing's aura instantly became incomparably sharp. The black dragon spear in his hands was a high-grade spirit weapon. Yixing felt incomparably comfortable, hundreds of times more comfortable than when he held the purple plume spear. The glove's function was to protect the hands. Although it could increase the power of star essence, in terms of striking power, it was far inferior to true offensive weapons like sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. As a high-grade spirit weapon, the black dragon spear contained a formidable strength to begin with. In terms of increasing Yixing's striking power, it was even better than the blazing flame glove. At the Heaven Net sect, the Heaven Net sect's Heaven Net young master looked at Yixing from afar. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. He thought to himself, he really does have an even more formidable method. At this time, the yin-yang young master felt a foreboding feeling rise in his heart. Yixing was first forced back by the yin-yang young master. Then, after his fist contained the potential of fire, his strength suddenly rose and he was actually able to suppress the yin-yang young master. When the yin-yang young master tried to use astrology, for some unknown reason, Yixing was always able to see the flaws in the connection of his 2 different spirit martial arts, causing him to be unable to use his full strength. And now, Yixing was actually saying that he was only playing around. The yin-yang young master felt as if he were a monkey that had been played by Yixing. Moreover, Yixing's methods were endless, causing the yin-yang young master to feel that Yixing was an unfathomable existence. He felt that Yixing was like a bottomless pool of water. With this thought in mind, the yin-yang young master's momentum immediately weakened. As for Yixing, with the black dragon spear in his hand, his momentum was like a mountain. Yixing stepped forwards, walking towards the yin-yang young master. With every step he took, his momentum became even stronger. Yixing said, "I've played around enough just now. Now, it's time to play for real. My high-grade spirit martial arts aren't well trained. What I'm familiar with is medium-grade spirit martial arts. Take my spear." Whoosh! As his voice fell, Yixing and his spear turned into a dark beam of light. Dark spirit spear art, flash of light. The momentum of wind, the momentum of fire, and the momentum of darkness, these three great influences of the world were all fused into this move. Whether it was speed or striking power, both rapidly rose. Moreover, the fire star aspect provided endless fire star force, causing that dark beam of light to be covered with a layer of fire star force, making it even more powerful. The yin-yang young master's eyes widened. The strength and speed of this spear strike was terrifying. It was like it had flown out from hell and suddenly arrived in front of him. The yin-yang young master revolved his celestial essence to the limit. The fire and water star aspect in the sky also bloomed with light, showering down a massive amount of water and fire star force. Ardent sun finger. Cold yin palm. The yin-yang young master instantly displayed two different kinds of spirit martial arts in a single breath, erupting his strength to the limit. Finger light and palm light overlapped, simultaneously attacking Yixing's spear. Clang! With a loud explosive sound, the yin-yang young master's strength was truly heaven-defying. Even though Yixing grasped the black dragon spear and displayed the dark spirit spear art to perfection, as well as the power of three great influences of the world, he was still blocked by the yin-yang young master. However, what the yin-yang young master never imagined was that at this moment, Yixing waved his left hand and an arrow shot out. Yixing faintly smiled. "In truth, I'm also good at archery." Chapter 333. The power of a perfect stage middle-grade spiritual martial force was comparable to that of a small success stage upper-grade spiritual martial force. Furthermore, the dark spirit spear technique was a dark attribute martial technique. It was much more powerful than normal martial techniques of the same level. The perfect stage dark spirit spear technique combined with the three forces of heaven and earth, two of which had reached the minute subtlety stage. Furthermore, it also contained the power of the fire celestial phenomenon. One could imagine how terrifying the attack would be. Even though Yixing was only a peak 7-star martial saint, the power of that spear attack was enough to compete with a half-enlightened being. The yin-yang young master was indeed powerful. Even though Yixing's spear attack was so powerful, he was still able to block it. However, the yin-yang young master was barely able to block it. He had used almost all of his strength to block Yixing's spear attack. Originally, Yixing's casual arrow would not be able to threaten the yin-yang young master. However, when the arrow suddenly shot over, it was like a stroke of God. It was so perfect that it instantly made the yin-yang young master feel a chill in his heart. All the hair on his body stood on end. An attack did not have to be powerful to be effective. It depended on the timing. When the timing was right, a straw could crush a camel. Currently, the yin-yang young master had used almost all of his strength to block Yixing's dark spirit spear technique. He was like a camel that had reached its limit. The arrow that Yixing suddenly shot out was that straw. Of course, this was only a metaphor. The yin-yang young master's strength was not something a camel could compare to. Even if he had reached his limit, with the support of the endless star power from the water and fire, he could still explode with a lot of power. However, Yixing's arrow was also not something a straw could compare to. Not only was it extremely fast, but it also contained a terrifying power. This arrow came too suddenly. The yin-yang young master had no time to block it. At the critical moment, the yin-yang young master twisted his body. His entire body spun like a spiral, creating a whirlwind. The arrow was like a flowing light. It was extremely fast. The distance between the two was also close. In an instant, it had arrived before the yin-yang young master. However, the yin-yang young master's reaction was indeed fast. In an instant, he rushed to the side like a whirlwind and dodged the arrow attack. In the blink of an eye, the arrow shot out, and the yin-yang young master dodged. Everything happened almost at the same time, less than the blink of an eye. Most of the spectating warriors were shocked when the arrow appeared. They felt that the yin-yang young master would not be able to dodge this arrow no matter what he did. However, when the yin-yang young master dodged the arrow, the crowd was even more shocked. The yin-yang young master's reaction speed far exceeded their expectations. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief. However, before they could let out a sigh of relief, they saw the arrow turn in the air and continue to shoot towards the yin-yang young master. Their hearts tightened again. The arrow turned in the air and changed direction. What level of archery was this? This meant that Yi Xing's attainments in archery had reached the second stage, follow your heart, and he could change the trajectory of his arrows as he pleased. As a result, the yin-yang young master was once again in danger. However, when the arrow changed direction and continued to shoot, it still took a moment for it to pass. In this brief moment, the water and fire star aspect above the yin-yang young master had already released a surging power of water and fire. Just as the arrow was about to strike the yin-yang young master's body, the power of water and fire intertwined to block it. Take another move of mine, Dark Spirit Spear. At this time, Yi Xing shouted out loud. The black dragon spear shined with a brilliant black light and a massive dark spear shadow shot out. As the yin-yang young master dodged the arrow attack, Yi Xing didn't remain idle. He revolved his celestial essence and raised his aura, using the dark spirit spear to attack the yin-yang young master once more. Moreover, this was the dark spirit spear's ultimate move. The huge dark spear radiance shot forward. The void in front of Lin Fan trembled at this moment, and a terrifying chi wave rushed out. Yi Xing's spear strike was the strongest attack he had prepared. As for the yin-yang young master, after blocking Yi Xing's divine light flash, he was forced into a fluster by the sudden attack of the arrow. He spent a tremendous amount of effort and finally managed to use the water and fire star aspect to block the arrow. But before he could take a breath, Yi Xing's even more powerful ultimate move had already arrived. Although the arrow that Yi Xing casually shot out just now hadn't been able to injure the yin-yang young master, it had created a massive effect. The yin-yang young master didn't even have time to catch his breath. The dark spear light shot out for hundreds of feet, instantly tearing through the void. In the powerful shockwave, the black dragon spear was 100 times more powerful. It pierced through the shockwave and instantly arrived in front of the yin-yang young master. The yin-yang young master's complexion changed. Just that wild shockwave had caused him to feel a terrifying strength. As for the dark spear light from the black dragon spear, it was terrifying to the extreme, making him feel a sense of imminent death. At this time, the yin-yang young master's strength completely erupted. His celestial essence revolved to the limit and the water and fire star aspect in the sky bloomed with a brilliant light. Water fire star, block for me. Endless water attribute and fire attribute star forces surged out from the water and fire star aspect. Combined with Yi Xing's half fire and half yin star essence, they wove together into a barrier of starlight. This barrier of starlight contained the power of water and fire. It constantly revolved and possessed a terrifying defensive ability. Beneath the shockwave, it remained motionless. Bang! In that instant, the black dragon spear thrust out with a dark spear light, thrusting into the water and fire star aspect, causing a heaven-shaking explosion. This strike was like the sharpest spear piercing into the toughest shield. Was the spear sharper or was the shield tougher? In the blink of an eye, the answer was clear. Kacha, the water and fire star aspect instantly broke apart as a hole was pierced through by the black dragon spear. However, the defensive power of the water and fire star aspect was indeed extraordinary. After the black dragon's spear broke through it, its strength was greatly reduced. The dark spear light that pierced through the spear point completely vanished. Whoosh! The yin-yang young master borrowed the strength of this spear strike to explode backwards. In front of him was the water and fire star aspect that blocked his path. However, in the center of the water and fire star aspect, there was a head-sized hole. This was the result of the black dragon spear's strike. At this time, the terrifying aura of the dark spirit spear still lingered in this hole. Even though the power of water and fire stars gushed out to repair this hole, the speed was extremely slow. In the blink of an eye, the yin-yang young master drew back several hundred meters. Moreover, he continued to retreat. He knew that Yi Xing had used his ultimate move and erupted with his strongest attack, consuming a great deal of energy. As long as he could get away from Yi Xing and survive Yi Xing's next wave of attacks, he would be able to reverse his disadvantage and turn defeat into victory. After Yi Xing used the dark spirit spear, he didn't rush to chase after the yin-yang young master. Instead, he put away the black dragon spear and took out the purple firmament bow and purple gold arrow. The yin-yang young master wanted to open up some distance and avoid Yi Xing's attack, but that was simply wishful thinking. To Yi Xing, within a 10-mile radius, distance didn't exist. He knocked an arrow, drew the bow, and released it in a single breath. Azure Dragon Arrow style. In an instant, the arrow left the bow and broke through the air, turning into a giant azure dragon that roared out. The speed of the arrow was over 10 times faster than the yin-yang young master's retreat. The yin-yang young master wanted to get away from Yi Xing and let out a sigh of relief. But before he could relax, an even more terrifying attack came hurtling towards him. The arrow contained the potential of subtle wind and was fast to the extreme. It also contained the potential of subtle fire and the potential of darkness, greatly increasing its strength. Moreover, the purple firmament bow itself was a peak medium-grade spirit bow. When combined with Yi Xing's power of star essence, the power of astrology, and all sorts of other great potentials, his strength had reached a horrifying degree. Even if he didn't use the Sagittarius constellation, it was still enough to kill most half-step true masters. The Azure Dragon Phantom smashed into the water and fire star, emitting a heaven-shaking explosion as cracks appeared on the water and fire star. Whoosh! The arrow shot forwards without slowing at all. It instantly passed through the hole in the water and fire star and arrived in front of the yin-yang young master in the blink of an eye. At this time, as the water and fire star was attacked, the yin-yang young master's star essence shook and he found it difficult to revolve it. The defensive effect of his protective star essence fell to its lowest point and was instantly torn apart by the arrow. The yin-yang young master's body shook. He felt as if something sharp had pierced through his throat, causing a cold sweat to drip down his back. He screamed out loud. All of the surrounding martial artists cried out in alarm. If this arrow had pierced through the yin-yang young master's throat, it would have been enough to take his life. Please recommend me. Please enter the rankings. Chapter 334. Formation Elder Lin Fenghua and Tool Pavilion Elder Hua Tianshu sat opposite each other in the guest hall of the Tool Pavilion Elder Mansion. There was an incense burner burning incense in front of Hua Tianshu and Lin Fenghua. The entire guest hall was filled with a sweet fragrance. The maids served tea to Lin Fenghua, the Formation Elder, and then respectfully retreated. Hua Tianshu made an inviting gesture to Lin Fenghua and said, "Elder Lin, please have some tea." Lin Fenghua lifted the teacup to his mouth and felt something was wrong. He put down the teacup and said, "Elder Hua, you called me here and said you wanted to tell me the secret about Yi Xing. Tell me." Hua Tianshu smiled faintly and said, "Elder Lin is really impatient. You don't even want to drink tea. Do you think I'll harm you after I invited you here?" Lin Fenghua did not respond. He did not have the intention to drink tea and just looked at Hua Tianshu quietly. After a while, Lin Fenghua said, "If Elder Hua doesn't want to tell me, then I'll take my leave." "Hey!" Hua Tianshu raised her hand and stopped Lin Fenghua. She said, "Elder Lin, please wait for a moment. I do have a secret about Yixing Elder Lin, my disciple He Hongjiao died in the Falling Star secret realm. Yixing was the one who killed her. Lin Fenghua looked calm and said, you call that a secret? Yixing had reported most of his experiences in the Falling Star secret realm to Lin Fenghua. Lin Fenghua naturally knew that He Hongjiao was killed by Yixing. Moreover, he also knew that He Hongjiao had the forbidden weapon, the soul-severing shuttle, which Hua Tianshu gave her. Therefore, Hua Tianshu was the one who wanted to kill Yixing. No one saw He Hongjiao die in the Falling Star secret realm. Even if Hua Tianshu knew that Yixing killed He Hongjiao, there was no evidence. She could not punish Yixing according to the sect rules. Moreover, even if there was evidence, Lin Fenghua would not allow Hua Tianshu to convict Yixing. When Hua Tianshu saw Lin Fenghua's reaction, she knew that Yixing had already told Lin Fenghua about what had happened in the Falling Star secret zone. Moreover, Lin Fenghua would definitely protect Yixing. However, Hua Tianshu's purpose in talking about Yixing was not to punish Yixing, but to make other plans. She did not care whether Lin Fenghua would protect Yixing or not. Hua Tianshu said, I'm afraid Yixing has an extremely sinister motive for killing geniuses of the same generation. I'm guessing that Yixing is most likely a spy that the East Fu sect has placed in our sect to kill our geniuses so that our sect will have no successors. Nonsense. Lin Fenghua slammed the table and stood up immediately. She shouted angrily, Elder Hua, you are the elder of our sect's tool pavilion and the sect leader's wife. What kind of identity do you have? Why are you slandering a junior disciple? What are your intentions? Lin Fenghua was indeed enraged. There were only 6 perfected persons left in the sect, including him and the Grand Elder Lin Shuyuan. Since Hua Tianshu was a spy, the number had to be reduced to 5. He was the formation elder of the Falling Star sect. Now that he was in Hua Tianshu's hands, the Falling Star sect's formation was not controlled by him. With Hua Tianshu cooperating with the East Fu sect, the Falling Star sect was in danger today. Ha ha ha. Hua Tianshu laughed out loud and said, are you surprised? Indeed, when I found out that I'm from the East Fu sect and the sister of the East Fu sect master, Watanabe Xiong, I was surprised and in disbelief. However, it's the truth. The blood of the Watanabe family flows in my body. I've done a blood test with the East Fu sect master, and it's absolutely true. Moreover, my parents left their mark on me so that I can recognize my ancestors in the future. Lin Fenghua felt more and more powerless. He had a lot of astral energy, but he could not circulate it. He was filled with anger, but he could not vent it. He wanted to shout, but he could not raise his voice. Lin Fenghua's eyes flashed with despair. What kind of poison is this? Hua Tianshu stood up, walked to the sound furnace, and said, traceless incense. It's odorless, traceless, and won't have any reaction for a certain period of time. Only when enough of it is absorbed will it take effect. The body will be powerless, and the astral energy will not be able to circulate. This is a poison that's especially effective against enlightened masters. My elder brother left the Qingyun region and spent a lot of effort to get this for you. Lin Fenghua, you'll die a worthy death. Then, Hua Tianshu walked toward Lin Fenghua step by step. A cold light flashed in her hand, and a spiritual sword with a sharp aura appeared. Lin Fenghua was in a dead end, but he was not afraid. He gritted his teeth and said, even if you kill me, don't you dare touch the foundation of the Falling Star sect. When my disciple grows up, the East Fu sect will be destroyed. Hua Tianshu laughed and said, ha. You don't know, do you? My elder brother has become a 4-star enlightened master with the help of the Sun Moon sect. After I kill you, I'll destroy the Falling Star sect's formation from the inside and let my elder brother and the others in. Those who stay in the sect will either surrender and become slaves of the East Fu sect or die. No one will be able to escape, haha. As for that little bastard Yixing, he should have been killed by Sir Watanabe in the Qingyun ancient land. The other disciples of the Falling Star sect should have been wiped out because the Flying Clouds sect has joined forces with the East Fu sect. Today, none of your disciples will be able to come out. As for Lu Tianyuan and the others, there's a trap waiting for them. They can't return to the Falling Star sect. Even if they die, they can only die outside the sect. After today, the Falling Star sect will be history. Chapter 335. The old site of the Azure Cloud sect, outside the Azure Cloud ancient land. The final battle of the 10 sects grand tournament had finally come to an end. The victor had been decided. Just as the cultivators were exclaiming, the arrow that was about to pierce through the Yin Yang young master's throat suddenly stopped in front of his throat. The tip of the arrow had already made contact with the Yin Yang young master's skin. It had broken through a bit of flesh and blood was seeping out. At this moment, the Yin Yang young master's heart was trembling. His body was covered in cold sweat as he felt the sharp aura at his throat. He didn't dare to move. A drop of sweat slid down his nose and dripped onto the arrow. The Yin Yang young master's gaze followed the drop of sweat. However, he could only see the arrow shaft. He couldn't see the arrow at his throat. The more he couldn't see, the more terrified he was. The cultivators of the Sun Moon sect were all agitated at this moment. The Yin Yang young master was a monstrous prodigy that was hard to come by in 1,000 years in the entire Qingyun region. He had the potential to lead the Sun Moon sect to become a superior one-star sect. If he was killed by Yixing's arrow, it would be a devastating blow to the Sun Moon sect. Therefore, when they saw that Yixing's arrow was already at the Yin Yang young master's throat, the enlightened masters of the Sun Moon sect were all furious. They instantly unleashed a terrifying aura. The arrow was too fast. They couldn't help, but if Yixing dared to kill the Yin Yang young master, he would definitely be torn into pieces by the furious enlightened masters of the Sun Moon sect. When they saw that the arrow had stopped in front of the Yin Yang young master's throat, the enlightened masters of the Sun Moon sect heaved a sigh of relief. Yixing's attainments in archery had reached the second stage, follow your heart. He could control the arrow to change its direction in the air. Of course, he could also control the arrow to move forward or stop. If he didn't have the confidence to stop the arrow, Yixing wouldn't have dared to shoot at the Yin Yang young master's throat. He was very clear that if he killed the Yin Yang young master, the enlightened masters of the Sun Moon sect would definitely kill him. No one would be able to save him. Yixing put away the purple firmament bow. He looked at the Yin Yang young master, who was drenched in cold sweat under the threat of the arrow. He said, Yang Ming, you've lost. The Yin Yang young master swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His heart pounded rapidly. He said, Yes. Yes, I've lost. Please move the arrow away. Lost. Yin Yang young master had been defeated. In this 10-sect grand tournament, the Dark Horse, Yixing's results had exceeded the expectations of all the martial artists. At the beginning, Yixing was firmly in the top 3. The martial artists were already very shocked, but in their hearts, they also believed that Yixing had reached his limit and could only be third. However, young Master Tian Luo's admission of defeat shocked the crowd. Yixing had actually jumped to second place, which was beyond everyone's expectations. Now, even the Yin Yang young master had been defeated by Yixing. Yet, Yixing had actually won first place in the 10-sect grand competition. This wasn't just unexpected, it was simply unimaginable. All the martial artists looked at the young man in the field. He was only 17 years old, but he was already a 7-star martial saint. Moreover, he had the terrifying battle prowess of a half-step Daoist master. He had surpassed the Yin Yang young master in one fell swoop and became the new number 1 of the younger generation in the Qingyun region. At such a young age, with such cultivation, with such strength, he had not only broken the 1,000-year record of the Qingyun region. Perhaps in the history of the Qingyun region, there had never been such a heaven-defying monstrous genius. At this moment, Yixing suddenly became lofty in the eyes of the crowd. His strength made them have no choice but to admit that he was indeed a peerless genius of the same generation in the Qingyun region. Yixing waved his hand and the arrow turned into a stream of light, flying back into Yixing's hand and disappearing. Yixing took a step forward. His eyes were like arrows, piercing through everything. He looked at the Yin-Yang young master and said, "Yang Ming, it's time for you to fulfill the bet." The Yin-Yang young master's expression changed. He wanted him to slap himself 10 times in front of the crowd and call himself a lowly pig or dog 10 times. Before the battle, the Yin-Yang young master was full of confidence, thinking that victory was in his grasp. He thought that he would definitely defeat Yixing, so he proposed this bet. His goal was to defeat Yixing and humiliate Yixing after Yixing. However, he had never expected that the battle would end like this. Slapping himself 10 times and calling himself a lowly pig or dog 10 times. When this happened to Yixing, the Yin-Yang young master felt very satisfied. However, now that it was his turn to complete the bet, he knew how humiliating it was. "No, no." The Yin-Yang young master took a step back and said "no" twice. He had no intention of fulfilling the bet. Yixing's eyes narrowed and said, "Yang Ming, this is the bet you proposed. All the cultivators here can be witnesses. Why, do you want to be a coward in front of the most elite cultivators in the Qingyun region? Do you want to be a shameless person who goes back on his words?" In the distance, the Sun Moon sect master shouted, "Yang Ming, come back." When the Yin-Yang young master heard this voice, it was as if he had grabbed onto a life-saving straw. He shouted, "I'm coming, sect master." Then, he dashed towards the Sun Moon sect. The cultivators were stunned. The Sun Moon sect master, Yin Wudao, actually let the Yin-Yang young master back down just like that? Yixing's heart was burning with anger. If he had lost, he definitely wouldn't have been able to escape. He would have been slapped 10 times and cursed 10 times. However, the Yin-Yang young master had lost and retreated just like that. Was he going to let it go just like that? Yixing looked towards the Sun Moon sect and shouted, "Is this how the Sun Moon sect handles things? Going back on your words in front of everyone, despicable and shameless. Do you have any shame?" The spectators all around started to jeer. Obviously, they looked down on the Sun Moon sect's actions. Especially the cultivators from the Sun Moon sect and the Blue Thunder sect. They all sneered. The Sun Moon sect's actions were indeed despicable. The Celestial Net sect master, Luo Zhan, sneered and said, "The Sun Moon sect is really thick-skinned. Your words are like farts." The Sun Moon sect master, Yin Wudao, snorted angrily. The Sun Moon sect was indeed unreasonable. Yin Wudao couldn't refute the Celestial Net sect master's mockery. He vented all his anger on Yixing. Yin Wudao stared at Yixing like a venomous snake. He said coldly, "Brat, do you want to die?" Yixing ignored Yin Wudao. He looked directly at the Yin-Yang young master and said, "Yang Ming, remember this. You owe me 10 slaps and 10 sentences. If you don't pay me back today, one day, I will make you pay me back double." Yin Wudao snorted and a terrifying killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said, "Brat, I'm afraid you won't have that chance." When the cultivators heard this, their hearts skipped a beat. Everyone could understand the meaning behind Yin Wudao's words. In the future, Yixing would definitely not be safe in the Green Cloud region. Hee hee. The Celestial Net sect master, Luo Zhan, laughed and said, "Little friend Yixing, if you have any difficulties in the future, don't hesitate to ask me. The Celestial Net sect will definitely help you." Yin Wudao was a threat to Yixing. On the other hand, Luo Zhan was trying to rope him in. Yixing smiled at Luo Zhan and said, "Thank you, Celestial Net sect master." Luo Zhan waved at Yixing and said, "No need to be so polite. Little friend Yixing, the Celestial Net sect will always welcome you as a guest." Yixing nodded and said, "I will." Luo Zhan nodded at Yixing. Then, he looked at the 4 judges and said, "The 10 sects grand competition has ended. Yixing is first, Yang Ming is second and Luo Lai is third. It's time to give out the rewards. The judges of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with depression. The judge of the Celestial Net sect was very happy. He had a bright smile on his face. The judge of the Blue Thunder sect was happy and disappointed. If it were not for the dark horse Yixing, the Thunder Prince of the Blue Thunder sect would have been third in the 10 sects grand competition and would have been rewarded. Now, he was fourth and had missed out on the rewards. Regardless of whether they were happy or depressed, the rankings of the 10 sects grand competition were clear. The Sun Moon sect could only follow the rules and could not act shamelessly like before. Soon, the rewards for the top 3 were given out. Yixing was rewarded with 300,000 lower star crystals, Yin Yang Master was rewarded with 200,000 lower star crystals, and Tian Luo Master was rewarded with 100,000 lower star crystals. 300,000 low-grade star crystals was almost equivalent to a small star crystal mine. This was definitely a huge sum of money. Even if Yixing had to hand over half of it to the sect, with 150,000 low-grade star crystals, he was definitely a wealthy person among the martial sages. There will be a new update tonight. Chapter 336. After the 10-sect grand competition ended, the top 10 sects left the old side of the Azure Cloud sect and returned to their respective sections. Not long after they left the old site of the Azure Cloud sect, the sect leader of the Tian Luo sect, Luo Zhan, sent 2 enlightened masters to monitor the whereabouts of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect. Yixing had won first place in the 10-sect grand competition and became the top junior genius in the Azure Cloud region. This undoubtedly made the cultivators of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect unhappy. Luo Zhan had to be on guard. The experts of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect might harm Yixing on the way back to the Falling Star sect. He was only 17 years old and was only a 7-star martial saint. However, he had surpassed the 8-star martial saint Yin Yang Master, who was 21 years old. Regardless of Yixing's talent, his current performance was monstrous and had great potential. Yixing was already on the opposite side of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect. This was undoubtedly a good thing for the Tian Luo sect. Of course, Luo Zhan would not let Yixing be harmed by the people of the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect. As for the battle between the Falling Star sect and the Dongfu sect, it was not good for the Tian Luo sect to interfere. In the world of martial artists, there were rules in the world of martial artists. Under the situation that each sect had their own backing, it was taboo for a sect of a higher level to interfere in a battle between sects of the same level. This was because it would immediately expand the scope of the battle and force the backing sect behind the other party to have no choice but to interfere in order to protect their interests. What was originally a battle between low-level sects would evolve into a battle between high-level sections. This was the same principle as the elders not interfering in the battle between the younger generation of the sects, no matter how intense it was. Hence, if the Sun Moon sect and the mysterious underworld sect attacked the Tian Luo sect would interfere. If the Dongfu sect attacked the Tian Luo sect could only watch from the sidelines and let the two sects fight. Even if Luo Zhan thought highly of Yixing and wanted to nurture Yixing, he could only protect Yixing's life if he interfered. He could not interfere in the survival of the Falling Star sect. Otherwise, it would cause the Sun Moon sect or the mysterious underworld sect to interfere and expand the scope of the battle. The 2 enlightened masters that Luo Zhan sent out followed the Sun Moon sect and the profound underworld sect's teams from afar. They didn't notice that anyone from the 2 sects' teams had left. Everyone from the Falling Star sect sat on their Violet Flame Monarch Eagles and flew towards the Falling Star sect from the old site of the Azure Cloud sect. Yixing was, of course, the focus of the group. The strength that he had displayed had indeed astonished everyone. The fact that he had come first in the 10 sects grand competition made the people of the Falling Star sect extremely excited and proud. All the disciples congratulated Yixing. Even the elders were full of praises for him. However, For some reason, Yixing felt as if there was something stuck in his heart, and he felt a little annoyed. An hour after leaving the old site of the Azure Sky sect, Lu Tianyuan's face suddenly warped in shock, and he exclaimed, "This is bad. The sect is under attack." At this moment, Lu Tianyuan was holding a communication bead in his hand as he received news that his sect was under attack. Hearing this, everyone on the Purple Flame Monarch Eagle's back was shocked. The martial artists present were all from the Falling Star sect. Some were seniors, and some were juniors. The sect being under attack was the most important thing for each of them. Qi Dosheng, whose temper had plummeted, immediately roared, "Who is attacking the sect? Is it the Dongfu sect? Kill them all. Burn the bastards of the Dongfu sect to ashes." Several disciples waved their fists and shouted loudly. However, Yixing was startled. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if an ice-cold hand had touched him all the way to the bottom. Yixing had been paying attention to Lu Tianyuan's expression. He saw that Lu Tianyuan's face suddenly turned pale, and then, it turned gray, full of pain and despair. The enlightened masters and elders obviously noticed the change in Lu Tianyuan's expression and were shocked. The law-enforcing elder, Yu Pinghai, was so excited that he grabbed Lu Tianyuan's arm and asked, "Sect leader, what happened to the sect?" "Ah!" Lu Tianyuan roared and clenched his fists. Tears filled his eyes as he said, "The sect has been breached. The Grand Elder, the Array Elder, the Martial Pavilion Elder, and the Elixir Pavilion Elder died in battle. The sect has been taken over by the Dongfu sect leader, Watanabe Xiong." Whether it was the enlightened masters or the younger disciples, everyone was petrified on the spot. Lu Tianyuan's words were like a bolt from the blue, ringing in their minds. The sect was breached and taken over by the Dongfu sect? All of this happened too suddenly. Everyone could not believe it. The enlightened masters and elders had just come out of the sect this morning. How could the sect be breached in less than a day? This is impossible. Lin Fengjue, the sect leader, roared in a shrill voice. He was a descendant of the Lin clan. How could he believe that his cousin Lin Fenghua and uncle Lin Xiuyuan had both died in battle? Everyone's faces were as pale as Lu Tianyuan's. Moments ago, they had been overjoyed and proud of Yixing's achievements. But now, they felt as if they had fallen from heaven to hell, and their hearts were dripping blood. Yixing only felt a buzzing sound in his mind. He almost lost his balance and fell. He finally understood why he had been panicking and why he felt suffocated and depressed when he should have been happy. It turned out that he had a feeling that the sect was breached and his master was dead. The figure of his master, Lin Fenghua, appeared in Yixing's mind. It was so clear as if he was right in front of him. Lin Fenghua took him in as a disciple in the Star Crystal Mine. Lin Fenghua helped him enter the Fallen Star secret territory in the Fallen Star sect. Lin Fenghua taught him array formation in the Array Elder's mansion. Scenes of the past flashed across Yixing's mind. His eyes could not help but moisten. He had never thought that one day, the sect would be attacked and destroyed. Even more so, he had never thought that his master, Lin Fenghua, would die. This news was like a heavy hammer that struck Yixing hard. It made Yixing experience the cruelty of the martial arts world once again. Yixing's eyes burned with anger. The anger in his heart was like a volcanic eruption that rushed up his body. At this moment, the killing intent in Yixing's heart was extremely strong. He seemed to have returned to the battlefield in Zishan County. When he saw Yang Yun, Lu Chen, and Wan Xingliang, his three comrades, die in front of him, that monstrous anger burned fiercely in his body. It was as if it wanted to burn everything. Yixing could not wait to kill everyone in the Dongfu sect. The aura in Yixing's body was affected by the flames of anger. In an instant, it went berserk. It instinctively moved quickly in his body and merged with the invisible flames of anger. His aura became stronger and stronger. Yixing's cultivation had already been consolidated at the peak of the 7th star martial saint realm in the Yama Sea of Flames. However, his state of mind was not complete. Therefore, he could not break through to the 8-star martial saint realm. Today, Yixing had participated in the 10-sect grand tournament and fought fiercely with experts like young master Tian Luo and young master Yin Yang. During the battle, Yixing's state of mind had been greatly tempered, causing it to gradually become complete. Now, under the anger of his sect being destroyed and his master's death, the door in Yixing's heart was completely blown open by the flames of anger. The flaw in his state of mind that prevented him from increasing his cultivation was instantly burned away by the flames of anger. At this moment, Yixing's heart was only left with the desire to become stronger and take revenge. His cultivation surged mightily toward the 8-star martial saint realm. Almost without any obstruction, Yixing broke through the cultivation barrier of the 7-star martial saint realm and broke through to the 8-star vortex realm in one fell swoop. At this moment, all the martial artists were completely shocked by the news that Lu Tianyuan had said. No one paid attention to the changes in Yixing's cultivation. The veins on Qi Dosheng's neck bulged. This sudden cruel news had almost made him go berserk. Qi Dosheng tried hard to control his emotions so that he would not go crazy and go berserk. He roared in a low voice. The Supreme Elder is a 3-star martial sage. How could he die in battle? Unless it was a mid-level martial sage from the 4 northern sects, who could kill him? Also, the Supreme Elder, the Formation Elder, the Martial Pavilion Elder, and my father have all died in battle. What about the Weapon Pavilion Elder and the Sect of Fair Hall Elder Li Hongguang? How are they? Did they manage to escape? There was extreme pain in Lu Tianyuan's eyes. Obviously, there was something that he could not believe. It was even more unbelievable than the sect being breached. Lu Tianyuan gritted his teeth and said, Hua Tianshu and Li Hongguang have already betrayed the sect and colluded with the Dongfu sect. The sect was breached, and the two of them are the main culprits. The Dongfu sect's sect master, Watanabe Xiong, has already broken through to the 4-star martial sage. The Supreme Elder died in the hands of Watanabe Xiong. A 4-star martial sage. The eyes of the martial sages and elders suddenly widened. The junior disciples revealed looks of despair. I'm sorry that I couldn't finish 5 chapters today. The plot is at a turning point, and I don't know how to start writing. Secondly, I was angered by that bastard Aaron Targaryen in the forum. I'm always easily affected by it. This is wrong. I shouldn't step on the dog when it bites me and then take it to heart. I will correct myself and try not to be affected by this dog in the future. Up until today, the Archer God still lacks 2 chapters. This is very distressing for me. I also want to finish it quickly so that I can release more chapters. Although I've been releasing chapters most of the time, I haven't released for many days. I've been working hard. Since I can finish 49 chapters, then I can be sure that I can finish the last 2 chapters as well. Since I can finish 51 chapters in a little more than a month, then I can be sure that I'll be releasing more than 51 chapters this year. Please give me some time. I'll release more chapters if I don't release more chapters. If you're willing, please give me a vote to support me. If it makes me feel better, then I'll release more chapters. If you're not willing, please read quietly. Don't scold people. This will only disturb my emotions and cause me to release fewer chapters. Lastly, I'm really sorry that I couldn't finish 5 chapters today. I wanted to finish 5 chapters today and ask for monthly votes after I've finished my chapters. Sigh, I don't have the face to ask for votes now. Chapter 337. 3-star sage was already at the peak of the 6 southern sects. A 4-star sage was rare in the southern part of the Azure Sky region. Every 4-star sage had the ability to establish a sect in the southern part of the Azure Sky region. The founding masters of the 6 southern sects were all 4-star sages. Watanabe Xiong had broken through to become a 4-star sage, which meant that he had reached the same level as the founder of the Fallen Star sect. Now that the Fallen Star sect had been breached and lost its barrier, the remaining people couldn't fight against the Dongfu sect. Enforcement Elder Yu Pinghai looked dazed. Hua. Elder Hua. Madam Sect Master. How could she have colluded with the Dongfu sect and betrayed the sect? Everyone was equally shocked, but they didn't dare say it in front of Lu Tianyuan. Lu Tianyuan's expression turned to stone. His eyes were dull and lifeless. This was also a question that he found hard to accept and hard to believe. This morning, Hua Tianshu had told him that she was pregnant with his child, but now she had become a traitor of the Fallen Star sect. She had colluded with the Dongfu sect and attacked the Fallen Star sect. How could Lu Tianyuan accept this? Pfft! Lu Tianyuan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood and swayed. Sect Master! Everyone exclaimed. Qi Doxing supported Lu Tianyuan and said, Overlord, you can't fall now. As long as you're here, the Starfall sect will rise again one day. After spitting out the blood that had accumulated in his heart, Lu Tianyuan felt much better. His eyes regained their vigor. He just couldn't accept it, so he was a little dazed. But as the sect master, how could he fall now that the sect was in danger? Even if he fell, it wouldn't be because of himself, but because of the battle with the enemy. Lu Tianyuan pulled himself together and quickly regained his spirit, suppressing the pain in his heart to the deepest part. Lu Tianyuan said, the Star Crystal Mine is protected by the Formation Elder's Level 3 formation, so it hasn't been destroyed yet. Elder Gu Tianshang is controlling the formation in the Star Crystal Mine, so the Dongfu sect won't be able to take it down in a short time. Let's change our route and head to the Star Crystal Mine. Under Lu Tianyuan's command, the Purple Flame Monarch Eagle changed its direction slightly and flew towards the Star Crystal Lode that Yixing had discovered. When Yixing had discovered the Star Crystal Vein, he had never imagined that the day would come when the Star Crystal Vein would become the Falling Star sect's last bastion. The Purple Flame Monarch Eagle soared through the air, causing the wind to howl. On the eagle's back, the warriors of the Falling Star sect sat quietly. They were all silent, immersed in the grief and resentment of losing their sect and their friends and family. Deep worry could be seen in the depths of Lu Tianyuan's eyes. They were the future of they, and it was still unknown whether or not they would be able to reach the Star Crystal Vein safely. If this group of people was also gone, even if the Falling Star sect still had those people guarding the Star Crystal Vein, it would only exist in name. With those people, there was no chance for the Falling Star sect to rise again. If they wanted the Falling Star sect to rise again, they would need at least one condition. That was, in the future, the Falling Star sect must have a genius who could contend with a 4-star sage. Only then would they be able to lead the Falling Star sect back and rise again. With this thought in mind, Lu Tianyuan's gaze instinctively fell on Yixing. As of now, Yixing was the only genius of the younger generation who had such potential. At this moment, Yixing was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed. The aura in his body was circulating. After breaking through the barrier of the 7-star Martial Saint realm, his cultivation was rising steadily in the 8th-level Star Vortex realm. He had absorbed too much flame energy in the Sea of Yama Flames. As his physical body strengthened, he had stored the energy in his flesh and bones. When Yixing was a 7-star Martial Saint, his cultivation was at the peak of the 7th level. The star vortex in his dantian and the meridians in his body had been filled with dense star essence. He could no longer absorb the energy stored in his flesh and bones. Now that he had broken through to the 8-star Martial Saint realm, Yixing's capacity for star essence had increased by a lot. There was also room for improvement in his star vortex. Naturally, he would quickly absorb the flame energy in his flesh and bones to consolidate his cultivation. Furthermore, Yixing's state of mind was greatly affected, and he almost went berserk. However, when he adjusted his emotions and suppressed all his anger, unwillingness, and resentment, and turned them into calmness, Yixing felt his entire state of mind rising to a higher level. At this moment, his heart was as calm as water. The aura in his body was not controlled by anger and resentment. This was thanks to the powerful super brain and the black hole astrology in his glabella. Although his heart was calm, it did not mean that Yixing was not angry or resentful. It did not mean that Yixing did not care about the survival of the sect and the life and death of his master. All these were engraved in Yixing's heart. However, he did not lose control of his aura and go berserk because of this madness. Instead, his heart was as calm as a mirror. Everything was engraved in his heart. Once he had the chance, he would eliminate the entire Dongfu sect in one fell swoop. Yixing's state of mind was improving. For the first time, he could clearly feel the power of his mind. The second level of archery was follow the heart. At this level, the stronger one's heart, the higher one's attainments in archery would be. Yixing did not deliberately cultivate or comprehend it. However, his cultivation and archery were rising rapidly. Lu Tianyuan looked at Yixing. At first, he did not feel anything. Yixing was sitting with his eyes closed. He was very calm and normal. However, when Lu Tianyuan looked at Yixing and observed him with his heart, a trace of surprise flashed in his heart. At this moment, Yixing's body seemed to be in harmony with the Tao. His entire body was flowing with a trace of Tao rhyme. Astral energy gathered in Lu Tianyuan's eyes as he focused on Yixing. Under his careful observation, he could finally see that Yixing's cultivation had broken through another level. He had become an 8-star martial saint. Moreover, the Tao rhyme in Yixing's body seemed to be related to his mind. Lu Tianyuan was astonished by this. The first level of archery was transformation. The second level was follow the heart. In fact, this could be applied to other martial arts as well. Sword Tao, Saber Tao, Fist Tao. Which one did not emphasize transformation first and then spiritual comprehension later? Astral realm enlightened masters focused on spiritual comprehension when they cultivated martial arts. Only when one's spiritual comprehension was high could they cultivate martial arts to a higher level. The second level of archery, follow the heart, was divided into 9 transformations. This represented the power of spiritual comprehension. It was divided into 9 levels. With each level, when the arrow was shot in the air, it could change direction according to the archer's thoughts. The performance of archery was the change of direction. The performance of other martial arts was the improvement of one's martial arts attainment and the increase of one's martial arts power. When an enlightened master with the power of the spiritual perception performed a perfect stage lower tier spiritual martial force, its power would definitely be much stronger than a martial saint performing a perfect stage lower tier spiritual martial force. It was because once the power of the spiritual perception reached a certain level and merged with the martial arts, then the perfect stage martial arts would increase to the transformation stage. When the spiritual martial art reached the transformation realm, spiritual comprehension was the key. Yixing was now in the state of spiritual comprehension. Moreover, the Tao rhyme had appeared in the state of spiritual comprehension. This meant that Yixing's spiritual comprehension was extraordinary. The reason why Lu Tianyuan was shocked was that even for an enlightened master, the appearance of Tao rhyme during spiritual comprehension was something that could only be encountered but not sought. Compared to this, Yixing's cultivation breakthrough to the 8-star martial saint realm did not seem so special. During the 10-sect grand competition, he was still a peak 7-star martial sage. It seems that he had accumulated enough cultivation at that time. What he lacked was the comprehension of his mental state. Now that he is comprehending his mental state will improve and his cultivation will naturally break through. Lu Tianyuan thought for a while and guessed most of Yixing's situation. Looking at Yixing, who was possessed by the Tao rhyme, Lu Tianyuan's heart revealed a gratified expression. He thought to himself, an 8-star martial saint's spiritual comprehension has reached such a level. I wonder what level he will reach. Such a genius is indeed a God's favored one. The small stage of the green cloud region cannot accommodate him. Perhaps even the true Xian domain is only a small pawn to him. Such a God's favored one should shine in the entire East Divine Continent, or even the Star Land. As long as Yixing is protected, the falling star sect will not be destroyed. Moreover, there is hope that it will become a super force that dominates a region. Chapter 338. Lu Tianyuan was right to be worried. They were intercepted when they were still 10,000 miles away from the star crystal mine. Dongfu sect was not the only one who intercepted the Falling Star sect. Flying Cloud sect, Holy Wind sect, and Blood Ghost sect each had 2 perfected masters. There was also a 3-star perfected master from Sun Moon sect. Dongfu sect had 5 perfected masters, Flying Cloud sect, Holy Wind sect, and Blood Ghost sect each had 2 perfected masters, and Sun Moon sect had 1 perfected master. There were 12 perfected masters in total. Among them, there were 2 3-star perfected masters, Grand Elder Dubian Tan and Sun Moon sect's Chizhua. There were 5 2-star perfected masters, 2 from Dongfu sect, and 1 each from Flying Cloud sect, Holy Wind sect, and Blood Ghost sect. There were 5 1-star perfected masters, the same as the 2-star perfected masters. Everyone from the Falling Star sect was shocked. There were only 6 perfected masters on the Falling Star sect's side. Moreover, among the 6 enlightened masters of the none of them was a 3-star enlightened master. There were only 3 2-star enlightened masters, Sect Master Lu Tianyuan, War Pavilion Elder Qi Dosheng, and Law Enforcement Elder Yu Pinghai. Lin Fengjue, Tang Yintian, and Wei Yang were all 1-star perfected masters. As for the 10 younger disciples, although they were the most elite of the younger generation of the none of them was an immortal, and none of them was even a 9-star martial saint. In this battle, they were of no use at all, and could even be said to be a burden. Comparing the two, it was obvious that the difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. Even with Yixing's Fire Cloud Lion, the difference could not be reversed. The purple flame monarch eagle felt threatened. The feathers on its neck stood up, and it looked fierce. Under Lu Tianyuan's command, the purple flame monarch eagle landed on a hill. Dongfu sect also had level 3 demonic beasts as mounts. If they fought in the air, the purple flame monarch eagle would not be able to take care of so many people on its back. Lu Tianyuan asked everyone to go down, but he stopped Yixing, sect leader. Yixing looked at Lu Tianyuan. Yixing, you are the hope of our sect. The purple flame monarch eagle will take you out. What you need to do is to survive. As long as you are here, so is the Falling Star sect. As he spoke, Lu Tianyuan took off his storage ring and stuffed it into Yixing's hand. Yixing knew about this ring. It was a keepsake belonging to the sect master of the Falling Star sect. It had the sect master's symbol on it. Furthermore, this headmaster's ring was a middle-grade storage ring. Its space was much larger than a low-grade storage ring. Just this point alone made it 100 times more valuable than a low-grade storage ring. The people who had yet to get off the eagle's back were all startled. Lu Tianyuan had given the sect leader's ring to Yixing, which was equivalent to passing the position of sect leader to Yixing. Moreover, from Lu Tianyuan's words, everyone could tell that Lu Tianyuan wanted to give the purple flame monarch eagle to Yixing alone, so that he could bring Yixing out of the encirclement. As for the rest, they could only fight to the death with the enemy. With such a great disparity in strength, this was a battle to the death. Among the younger disciples, a few of them immediately fell to the ground. If they stayed, they would die without a doubt. Sect Master, the younger disciples here are all the elites of our sect. How can we only protect Yixing and abandon them all? The law enforcement elder immediately objected. He said, the 6 of us are perfected beings. If we stay and fight to the death, we will have no regrets even if we die. However, they are the future of our sect. We must protect them all. Lu Tianyuan's eyes were filled with struggle. But soon, he revealed a ruthless expression. With each extra person, the purple flame monarch eagle will have to send out more energy to protect them, and it will slow down a bit. Only by protecting Yixing will we have the highest chance of getting out of here. If everyone is safe, then none of us will be able to get out. Even the purple flame monarch eagle will die here. Then, our sect will have no chance to rise again, and will be completely wiped out. Yixing's heart was bleeding. Even though he was calm and did not go berserk, he could not stop his blood from boiling. At this moment, everyone was going to fight to the death, but he was the only one who could escape on the purple flame monarch eagle. How could he be afraid of death? If he could control his blood, he would rather stay and fight to the death with the sect master and the others. However, his mind was calm. He was not affected by his blood. Rationally, he knew that he could not stay. He had to try his best to escape. If he stayed, he would definitely die. He would only be fulfilling the enemy's wish. This was the result that the enemy wanted to see the falling star sect completely destroyed. There would be no chance for them to rise again. If he could escape, then he would be the hope for the falling star sect to rise again. He would become the enemy's nightmare and make them unable to eat or sleep in peace. Lu Tianyuan was right. As long as Yi Xing was alive, the falling star sect would still exist. Therefore, Yi Xing had to stay alive. At this moment, Yi Xing could not say anything. Letting the other disciples die here while he escaped on the purple flame monarch eagle was in the interest of the sect. However, he did not have the right to let others die for him. Yi Xing only looked at Lu Tianyuan with determination in his eyes. Lu Tianyuan nodded with a gratified look on his face. He saw the answer in Yi Xing's eyes. The sect master is right. If Yi Xing doesn't make it out alive, the falling star sect will no longer have a chance to rise again. We have to do our best to let the purple flame monarch eagle carry Yi Xing and escape. Only if Yi Xing escapes this calamity will our deaths not be in vain. Qi Dosheng said loudly. Then, he came to Qi Jingyang and jumped off the purple flame monarch eagle's back. Qi Dosheng patted Qi Jingyang's shoulder and said, "I'm sorry, son. I can't save your life today. The blood of the Qi clan flows in our veins. Don't be afraid of death. Today, we will live and die together. Even if you disappoint me in terms of cultivation, you are still a good man of the Qi clan." "Father, I don't want to die. I really don't want to die. Get me out. Let the purple flame monarch eagle get me out." At this moment, Qi Jingyang was scared out of his wits. How could he still be hot-blooded? He hugged Qi Dosheng's leg and cried. Sigh. Qi Dosheng shook his head and sighed. Disappointment flashed in his eyes again. His face was ashen. No matter how Qi Jingyang begged, his expression did not change at all. In order to let Yi Xing escape, Qi Dosheng even brought his own son off the eagle's back. The rest of the disciples were unwilling, but they knew that there was nothing they could do. They dispiritedly got off the eagle's back. Yi Xing also let the fire cloud lion get off the eagle's back. Soon, only Yi Xing was left on the purple flame monarch eagle's back. Beside the purple flame monarch eagle, Lu Tianyuan patted Ma Ren's shoulder and said, "Ren, your talent is not bad either. Do you blame me for being cruel?" Ma Ren shook his head and said with determination, "Master, I understand. If I were in your position, I would make the same decision. The fallen star sect cannot be destroyed like this. There must be hope. I believe in Yi Xing. He will definitely rebuild the fallen star sect and bring it to greater heights. Even if I die, I will watch from above and watch Yi Xing take revenge for the fallen star sect." At the end of his sentence, Ma Ren's gaze had already shifted to Yi Xing. In fact, his words were also directed at Yi Xing. "Yi Xing, don't disappoint us and die with everlasting regret." Ma Ren looked at Yi Xing and said. The few enlightened masters and elders all looked at Yi Xing with hopeful eyes. Yi Xing clenched his right fist and said, "As long as I am here, so will the fallen star sect. One day, I will make all the enemies of the fallen star sect, no matter which sect they are from, disappear from the world. I will make the fallen star sect the #1 sect in the Green Cloud region." This was Yi Xing's promise. Lu Tianyuan's pupils suddenly dilated. He had heard some hidden meaning from Yi Xing's words. Becoming the #1 sect in the Green Cloud region meant that the fallen star sect would surpass the northern 4 sects in the future. And this was not something that could be achieved with words. Chapter 339. Watanabe Tan's laughter came from the front. He was standing on the head of the four-winged flying snake, looking at the falling star sect with a smile. Watanabe Tan said loudly, "Little Lu, are you done with your funeral arrangements?" "Unfortunately, it's useless. Today is the day of your falling star sect's destruction. Everyone in your falling star sect will die." Ha 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 ha. The four-winged flying snake landed 1,000 meters away from the purple flame monarch eagle. Watanabe Tan continued to stand on the four-winged flying snake's head. The other four enlightened masters of the Dong Fu sect stood in a row on either side of the four-winged flying snake. The two enlightened masters of the Wind sect stood on the left, the two enlightened masters of the Blood Ghost sect on the right, and the two enlightened masters of the Flying Clouds sect at the back. They were 1,000 meters away from the surrounding them from four directions. As for the Sun Moon sect's three enlightened master Chizhua, he stood on a mountain peak a few miles away, looking down at the falling star sect's people. It seemed that he didn't plan to fight. Watanabe Tan and the other enlightened masters, plus the four-winged flying snake, were enough to deal with the falling star sect's 6 enlightened masters, 1 fire cloud lion, 1 purple flame monarch eagle, and 10 junior disciples. After all, the Sun Moon sect was one of the 4 northern sects. They were 1 level higher than the 6 southern sects. If he were to make a move, it would be hard to avoid rumors that the Sun Moon sect was bullying the Falling Star sect. It would damage the Sun Moon sect's reputation. The Sun Moon sect didn't send him here to participate in the battle. Instead, they wanted him to be a spectator and witness the destruction of the Meteor sect. Of the 6 southern sects, the Flying Clouds sect had changed sides, the Falling Star sect had been destroyed, and the Spirit Moon sect was not worth mentioning under the pressure of the East supporting sect, the Wind sect, the Blood Ghost sect, and the Flying Clouds sect. As long as the Sun Moon sect controlled the East supporting sect, the Wind sect, the Blood Ghost sect, and the Flying Cloud sect, it would be equivalent to controlling the southern part of the Blue Cloud mountain range. This was a strategy that had been planned long ago. They had been waiting for the day of the 10 sects grand competition. And while the enlightened masters of the Falling Star sect were in 2 different places, they would attack separately and destroy the Falling Star sect. On the hillside, Lu Tianyuan's eyes were burning with anger. He wanted to rush up to Watanabe Tan and cut all the Dongfuzongjinren into meat paste. However, this was clearly impossible. Lu Tianyuan could only restrain his anger and shouted, "Everything the Dongfu sect has given to the Falling Star sect will be returned 100-fold one day." Watanabe Tan sneered, "After today, the Falling Star sect will be removed from the list. Ha ha ha. Only death awaits you. Go in peace. However, the heavens are virtuous, and my Dongfu sect is merciful. I will give you a chance. Those who surrender will not die, and those who resist will be killed without mercy. We of the Falling Star sect are all iron-blooded men. We will die standing up, not live kneeling. Bring it on. If I can kill one of you, it'll be worth it. If you want to kill us, you'll have to see blood." "That's right." The enforcement elder Yu Pinghai yelled. After hearing Yu Pinghai's words, the people of the Falling Star sect became spirited, and the blood in their bodies began to boil. Yu Pinghai circulated his astral energy to the limit, erupting with a terrifying aura. The strength of a 2-star enlightened being was fully unleashed. A middle-grade spiritual spear appeared in Yu Pinghai's hand, increasing his aura. Yu Pinghai roared, "I'll kill you all." In the next moment, the spiritual weapon spear in Yu Pinghai's hand emitted a dazzling light. He stabbed out with his strongest attack. Most of the martial artists of the Falling Star sect thought that Yu Pinghai was going to kill the people of the Dongfu sect, but they were wrong. The spear radiance pierced through the air, stabbing towards the purple flame monarch eagle's throat. Yu Pinghai had actually launched a sneak attack on the purple flame monarch eagle. The purple flame monarch eagle clearly did not expect that someone would launch a sneak attack on it. Shock flashed through its eyes as it let out a sharp cry and quickly retreated. However, Yu Pinghai's attack was too sudden. Even though the purple flame monarch eagle was comparable to a 3-star enlightened being, it could not dodge this unexpected attack. Yu Pinghai, what are you doing? The enlightened being elders were shocked. Qi Dosheng was even more furious. If the purple flame monarch eagle was injured by Yu Pinghai, then how could they escape with Yixing? This was simply destroying the falling star sect's hope of making a comeback. Unfortunately, Qi Dosheng and the others did not expect that Yu Pinghai would attack the purple flame monarch eagle after his righteous words. It was too late to stop him. However, not everyone did not expect this. Boom! As soon as Yu Pinghai attacked with his spear, the enlightened being elders cried out in surprise. Lu Tianyuan seemed to be prepared. He channeled the celestial essence in his body and a layer of lightning appeared on his body. He performed the purple lightning thunder fist and punched towards Yu Pinghai. The purple lightning thunder fist was a middle-grade spiritual martial art. However, Lu Tianyuan had already trained it to perfection. Although you have hidden very well, there are still many flaws. First, you purposely mentioned Hua Tianshu to provoke me. Second, the purple flame monarch eagle had the highest chance of escaping with Yixing. But you stopped it. Third, Watanabe Tan wanted us to surrender. Did you need to speak so righteously to stabilize everyone's belief? Don't you think you've gone too far? You have good reasons for these 3 points, but I only talk about the result. The result you want is not in line with the position of the Falling Star sect. If there is a traitor around me, who else could it be but you? Yu Pinghai smiled bitterly. I see. I should have kept quiet. The more I show, the easier it will be to expose myself. The Falling Star sect has been destroyed. You hate traitors to the core. Now that I am in your hands, you will not let me live no matter what. Lu Tianyuan said, it's good that you know. He. Yu Pinghai knew that he was going to die. There was no hope for him to survive. He threw the fear of death to the back of his mind and laughed. You want to know why I betrayed you? If it wasn't for that slut Hua Tianshu who seduced me, how could I have ended up like this? But your wife is really slutty. Die! Lu Tianyuan roared furiously, twisting Yu Pinghai's mind in an instant. Chapter 340. Watanabe Tan was unfazed by Yu Pinghai's death. Yu Pinghai used to be an elder of the Fallen Star sect. Now that he had betrayed the Dongfu sect, it was impossible for him to be put in an important position. Watanabe Tan only felt that it was a pity that the Dongfu sect would lose a good fighter. After all, a 2-star perfected being was rare in the southern part of the Qingyun region. The Fallen Star sect only had 6 perfected beings. Now that they had a traitor, a 2-star perfected being at that, the Fallen Star sect's strength was greatly reduced. The gap in strength between the two sides widened again. Yixing will open a gap for the purple flame eagle. You just have to hold on to its feathers and don't fall off its back. It'll take you to the star crystal mine. The future of the Fallen Star sect depends on you. Lu Tianyuan didn't lose control of his anger after killing Yu Pinghai. Instead, he calmed down quickly and sent a message to Yixing. As the sect master, Lu Tianyuan was undoubtedly outstanding. The fall of the Fallen Star sect wasn't his fault. Unfortunately, his wife, Hua Tianshu, was from the Dongfu sect. She had been a spy in the Fallen Star sect since he was a baby and had ruined everything for him. Who would have thought that the Dongfu sect had purposely arranged for an outer elder to pick up an abandoned baby when he was adventuring in the North Four sects? Yixing nodded at Lu Tianyuan. He could understand the pain in Lu Tianyuan's heart. Don't worry, sect master. It won't be long. I'll use that bitch's blood as a sacrifice to the souls of the Fallen Star sect. Watanabe Tan's voice came from afar again. What I said just now still counts. Those who surrender will be spared. I'll give you 10 breaths of time. Those who don't surrender will be killed. In the world of martial artists were a kind of resource. In fact, killing the people of the Fallen Star sect was far less beneficial than having them surrender and serve the Dongfu sect in the future. Martial artists would lose everything if they died. As long as they were alive, they could still create benefits. 10. Watanabe Tan began to count. Sect leader, I beg you, please let us live. Watanabe Tan had just started counting when Qi Jingyang and Wu Qingang knelt down at the same time, kowtowing to Lu Tianyuan and begging for mercy. You unfilial son, you dare to surrender to the East Fu sect and become their slave? I'll kill you right now. Qi Dosheng roared furiously when he saw that Qi Jingyang was begging for mercy in order to surrender to the East Fu zone. Qi Jingyang just kowtowed to Lu Tianyuan, ignoring Qi Dosheng's curses. Sect leader, please let us live. After Qi Jingyang and Wu Qingang begged for mercy, Li Yuanqing and the other disciples also knelt down and begged for mercy. Lu Tianyuan looked at them coldly and sighed. You're still young. If you're really afraid of death, then surrender. I won't blame you. Thank you, Sect Master, thank you, Sect Master. Everyone was overjoyed. As if they had just been pardoned, they got up and ran towards the Dong Fu sect cultivators. Qi Jingyang was the first to run. Qi Dosheng raised his arm and condensed a thick astral energy in his palm. He glared fiercely at Qi Jingyang, so angry that he really wanted to rush up and slap his son to death. The Qi clan had always had an irreconcilable enmity with the East Fu sect. Qi Dosheng's grandfather, Qi Zhantian, had died saving Lin Xiuyuan more than 100 years ago. Moreover, Qi Zhantian was only one of the Qi clan cultivators who had fallen. There were many Qi clan cultivators who weren't as famous as Qi Zhantian who had also died in the Falling Star sect's calamity. Not long ago, Qi Dosheng's father, Qi Jin Chao, an elder of the Dan Pavilion of the had died in the battle. Qi Jin Chao was not the only one who had died. There were many other warriors of the Qi clan who had died in the battle. Many more warriors of the Qi clan had died in the hands of the Dong Fu sect. Now, Qi Dosheng wanted to fight to the death with the East Fu sect, but his son was kneeling and kowtowing, surrendering to the East Fu sect. This made Qi Dosheng extremely angry. However, Qi Jingyang was his son after all. Qi Dosheng's hands trembled as he watched Qi Jingyang leave. In the end, he couldn't do it. Qi Jingyang, Li Yuanqing, Wu Qingang, a total of 6 Falling Star sect disciples had surrendered to the East Fu sect and came to the East Fu sect. Apart from Yixing, there were only 3 disciples, including Ma Ren, who stayed behind to live and die with the sect. 3, 2, 1. Watanabe Tan counted to 1 and waved to Qi Jingyang and the others who had surrendered. Good, this old man will keep his word. Stand aside and watch the fate of those who resisted. Watanabe Tan's eyes flashed with terrifying killing intent. Just as he was about to give the order to attack, the Sun Moon sect's 3-star sage, Qi Zhua's voice came from afar. Yixing, I'll give you a chance. Enter the Sun Moon sect and you'll survive. You'll also become the focus of the Sun Moon sect. Although Qi Zhua didn't go to the old site of the Azure Sky sect to watch the 10 sects grand tournament, he received a message from the Sun Moon sect sect master, Yin Wudao. Yixing's potential was indeed extraordinary. If he could enter the Sun Moon sect, Yin Wudao would let bygones be bygones and nurture him with all his might. Watanabe Tan was stunned. He was certain that the East Fu sect's disciples had been wiped out because of Yixing. He hated Yixing to the bone and had to kill him. However, if Yixing became a disciple of the Sun Moon sect, the East Fu sect would never be able to take revenge. Moreover, if Yixing survived, the East Fu sect would face a great calamity in the future. If the Sun Moon sect chose Yixing, it meant that they could give up on the East Fu sect. Clearly, Yixing's potential made the Sun Moon sect feel that he was more valuable than the entire East Fu sect and the entire southern region. Watanabe Tan stared at Yixing, his heart thumping. At this moment, Yixing's decision would affect the future of the East Fu sect. Yixing's gaze landed on the 3-star spiritual master, Qi Zhua, who was a few miles away. Qi Zhua was also looking at him from afar, waiting for his answer. Yixing said, if you let the people of the Falling Star sect leave safely, I'll agree to join the Sun Moon sect. Qizhuo said from afar, I'm saving your life. How dare you talk about conditions? Yixing looked away, ignoring Qizhuo. After a while, Qizhuo snorted and said, since you're willing to join the Sun Moon sect, you shouldn't be disloyal. The Falling Star sect can no longer exist. They must die. Yixing also snorted and said, if you can't save the lives of the Falling Star sect warriors, what right do you have for me to join the Sun Moon sect? Qizhuo said, if you had suggested that the Sun Moon sect help you rebuild the Falling Star sect before you would join the Sun Moon sect, I might have believed you a little. That would mean that you were willing to join the Sun Moon sect. However, you only want them to live. Once they leave alive, you will definitely betray the Sun Moon sect in the future. Since that is the case, it is better for you to die. Watanabe Tan and the other spiritual masters who were attacking the Falling Star sect let out a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Yixing would join the Sun Moon sect. Watanabe Tan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He waved his hand and said, kill them all. Other than Watanabe Tan, the other 10 spiritual masters all attacked at this moment. They performed all kinds of upper spiritual martial skills and attacked the people of the Falling Star sect. When a spiritual master attacked, it was terrifying. It was easy to destroy mountains. When 10 spiritual masters attacked at the same time, it was even more shocking. Lu Tianyuan's body started to burn. He knew that there was a huge difference in strength between the two sides, so he directly burned his astral energy. The other 4 spiritual masters also burned their astral energy and used their own astrological aspects. Lu Tianyuan shouted, stop them. Brother Eagle, run. The dazzling astral energy collided in the void, creating a deafening explosion. The void was shaking, and the earth was cracking. Lu Tianyuan, Qi Dosheng, and the other 5 spiritual masters of the Falling Star sect all spat out blood. Even though Watanabe Tan had not attacked, the combined attack of the 10 spiritual masters was much more powerful than them. However, although Lu Tianyuan and the others were injured, they managed to block the attacks of the 10 spiritual masters with the power of the burning astral energy. Whoosh! Seizing this opportunity, the purple flame monarch eagle soared into the sky. With a flap of its wings, it carried Yixing away at a rapid speed. Do you think you can escape? Watanabe Tan shouted. The 4-winged flying snake under his feet had already targeted the purple flame monarch eagle. At the same time, it soared into the sky and charged toward the purple flame monarch eagle. On the back of the purple flame monarch eagle, Yixing's eyes were suddenly covered with a layer of mist. He performed the eyes of blue cloud and looked at the 4-winged flying snake. Chapter 341. The Eye of Blue Cloud had the greatest effect on monster beasts. Yixing's Eye of Blue Cloud could already affect the thoughts of beginner 3rd-tier monsters, which were equivalent to beginner perfected ones. His state of mind had been elevated, and his entire body was enveloped in the aura of humanity. His body and Tao had become one, and his attainments in the Eye of Blue Cloud had increased significantly. In the Azure Cloud Ancient Land, Yixing had successfully controlled the Fire Cloud Lion Leader, which was equivalent to a 2-star perfected ones. Now, Yixing's attainments in the Eye of Blue Cloud had reached a new level, and the 4-winged flying snake under Watanabe Tan was only equivalent to a 3-star perfected ones, and a beginner 3rd-tier monster at that. How could it resist the attack of the Eye of Blue Cloud? Hiss! In the blink of an eye, cloud-like vortexes appeared in the 4-winged flying snake's eyes. It was instantly confused, and with a sharp hiss, its body flung violently. Watanabe Tan, who was standing on the 4-winged flying snake's head, did not expect the snake to suddenly attack him, and his body was thrown 1,000 meters away. Hiss! The 4-winged flying snake hissed again, baring its venomous fangs and looking ferocious. Its 4 wings flapped fiercely, and the 4-winged flying snake shot through the air like an arrow, rushing toward Watanabe Tan. Whoosh! The four-winged flying snake opened its mouth, and a water arrow pierced through the air, attacking Watanabe Tan. The four-winged flying snake's sudden change in allegiance was beyond Watanabe Tan's expectations. However, Tan Watanabe's strength as a 3-star spiritual master was not to be underestimated. Even though he was in a hurry, he reacted in an instant. He operated his star gang and struck out with his palm, blocking the water arrow that the four-winged flying snake had launched. The four-winged flying snake came with a ferocious momentum. Although Watanabe Tan blocked the water arrow, it was not easy for him, and he hurriedly retreated. He had not noticed Yi Xing's eyes earlier, and was extremely shocked by the four-winged flying snake's sudden madness. With the four-winged flying snake attacking him, Watanabe Tan did not have the time to chase after Yi Xing. However, the purple flame monarch eagle did not slow down, and like a beam of light, it flew rapidly into the distance, rushing out of the encirclement in the blink of an eye. Lu Tianyuan, Qi Dosheng, and the other perfected masters saw that Yi Xing had succeeded in breaking out of the encirclement. Even though they were all injured and vomiting blood, their eyes were filled with joy. However, no one noticed that a bow and arrow had suddenly appeared in the hands of Reverend 3-star Qi Zhua on the mountain peak several miles away. The bow was a treasured bow, and the arrow was a treasured arrow. Light radiated in all directions, resplendent and dazzling. In an instant, Qi Zhua knocked an arrow and pulled the bow into a full moon, pointing the arrow at the purple flame monarch eagle. When the bow and arrow were raised, the sharp aura instantly shot out in all directions, causing the spiritual masters who were fighting fiercely a few kilometers away to be startled. A layer of cold sweat appeared on their backs. All the enlightened masters looked at Qi Zhua, who was several miles away. When they saw the bow in Qi Zhua's hand, the 5 enlightened masters of the Falling Star sect were shocked. A high-grade spiritual bow. The bow in Qi Zhua's hand was actually a high-grade spirit bow, and the arrows were also shining with treasure light. It was not much different from a treasure bow, and could be compared to a mid-grade spirit weapon. If such a bow was shot by a reverend 3-star, how terrifying would its power be? A perfected master of the same level would definitely not be able to block it. If Qi Zhua's attainments in archery were high, even a reverend 4-star would be in danger under the attack of his arrows. Whoosh! The arrow left the bow and instantly streaked across the void, shooting 7 to 8 miles away. In the blink of an eye, the arrow caught up with the purple flame monarch eagle. The arrow contained extremely terrifying power. The purple flame monarch eagle's protective demonic power could not block it at all, and its huge body could not dodge it. The arrow instantly shot into the purple flame monarch eagle's body. Boom! The arrow's power was extremely terrifying. It exploded in the purple flame monarch eagle's body, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The purple flame monarch eagle let out a mournful cry. Its body trembled violently in the air, and it could no longer maintain its stability. It fell unsteadily to the ground. No! Lu Tianyuan and the other perfected masters of the Falling Star sect instantly turned pale as they cried out in alarm. It's over. It's completely over. Lu Tianyuan and the other 4 were instantly filled with despair. The purple flame monarch eagle was severely injured, and it could not even fly. There was no way it could escape with Yi Xing. How could Yi Xing escape from the pursuit of a perfected master by himself? If Yi Xing died, the Falling Star sect would have no hope of rising again. At this moment, Lu Tianyuan and the other 4 were filled with despair. The perfected masters who surrounded Lu Tianyuan and the other 4 were also looking at the purple flame monarch eagle in the distance, and they all laughed sinisterly. Yi Xing's potential was heaven-defying. If he escaped, they would not be able to live in peace in the future. Only when Yi Xing died would they be able to eliminate the source of trouble. Although the Falling Star sect still had the last bit of star crystal mine, it would be difficult for them to achieve great things without outstanding juniors. It would be destroyed sooner or later. However, just as Lu Tianyuan and the other 4 were in despair and the other perfected masters were rejoicing, a ray of light suddenly flashed across the back of the purple flame monarch eagle. This ray of light was as fast as an arrow piercing through the sky. Even the astral realm perfected masters present could not see it clearly. They could only see a blurry shadow. They could only judge from the blurry shadow that it was a pair of wings, and it was a flying spiritual tool. There was no way to judge the grade of the flying spiritual tool. However, from the speed of the flying spiritual tool, it was at least a high-grade flying spiritual tool. Flying spiritual tools were very rare. In the azure sky region, even low-grade and mid-grade flying spiritual tools were rare. This was because there were no blacksmiths in the azure sky region that could make flying spiritual tools. If one wanted a flying spiritual tool, they would have to find it in the primordial ruins or buy it in the bustling cities of the true Xian domain. There were not many materials that could be used to make flying spiritual tools, but there were many martial artists who wanted one. Therefore, once a flying spiritual tool was put on sale, it would be sold out immediately. Therefore, even if one went to the bustling cities of the true Xian domain, it would be difficult to buy a flying spiritual tool. In the azure sky region, a mid-grade flying spiritual tool was a rare treasure. In terms of value, it could be compared to a high-grade spiritual weapon. After all, once an perfected master had a flying spiritual tool, as long as his astral energy was not depleted, he could fly continuously in the sky. A mid-grade flying spiritual tool could greatly increase the flying speed of an perfected master. A mid-grade flying spiritual tool was already so valuable, let alone a high-grade flying spiritual tool. In the entire true Xian domain, a high-grade flying spiritual tool was a rare treasure. There were only a few perfected masters who owned one. Of course, no one would have thought that Yixing's azure sky wings was a grade higher than a high-grade flying spiritual tool. It was a supreme-grade flying spiritual tool. Regardless of the attributes that the azure sky wings could upgrade, just the value of a supreme-grade flying spiritual tool had already surpassed all spiritual weapons. Even the venerables of the 9 high sects would dream of owning one. In terms of value, a supreme-grade flying spiritual tool could be compared to a legendary profound weapon. Yixing pushed the azure sky wings with all his strength. His speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he was several miles away. In another blink of an eye, he was 10 miles away. Qizhuo was 7 to 8 miles away from the purple flame monarch eagle. When he shot an arrow at the purple flame monarch eagle, he thought that Yixing would have no chance of escaping and would definitely die. Who knew that? Yixing actually had a flying spiritual tool, and his speed was much faster than the purple flame monarch eagle's. He flew out of Qizhuo's arrow range in an instant. Qizhuo was stunned on the spot. The smiles on the faces of the perfected masters of the Dongfu sect, Divine Wind sect, Blood Spectre sect, and Flying Cloud sect froze as they looked at each other. As for the 5 perfected masters of their despair turned into joy as they revealed gratified smiles on their faces. At this moment, they all breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Yixing escaped, they would have no regrets even if they died in battle. Who has a flying spiritual tool? Chase after him quickly. We can't let this kid escape. Hurry up and chase after him. In the distance, Qizhuo stood on the peak of the mountain and shouted furiously. Yixing's current speed was faster than the flying demonic beasts. Even the 4-winged flying snake would have a hard time catching up with him. Moreover, the 4-winged flying snake was affected by Yixing's azure sky eyes and attacked Watanabe Tan fiercely. In the fierce battle, it had been injured by Watanabe Tan. Now that Yixing was far away, the 4-winged flying snake regained its consciousness and did not resist Watanabe Tan's attack. Moreover, it was seriously injured by Watanabe Tan. It had no strength to chase after Yixing. Therefore, if they wanted to chase after Yixing, only perfected masters who also had flying spiritual tools had a chance. Yun Zhanfei of the Flying Cloud sect, chase after him. We must bring back that kid's head. A 1-star perfected master of the Flying Cloud sect shouted. In an instant, a pair of wings appeared on his back. He spread his wings and flew, turning into a stream of light to chase after Yixing. Chapter 342. Yun Zhanfei, a one-star enlightened being, was the cousin of the Flying Cloud sect's leader, Yun Zhanfei. 30 years ago, Yun Zhanfei had broken through to the astral realm and became an enlightened being. He left the Green Cloud region to explore the true Xian domain and returned a few years later. During this period of time, Yun Zhanfei's greatest gain was the middle-grade air transportation spiritual weapon he had found in an ancient ruin. Of course, this middle-tier flying spiritual tool was not discovered by Yun Zhanfei alone. It was discovered by his two one-star enlightened being friends. After discovering this middle-grade flying spirit tool, Yun Zhanfei decisively launched a sneak attack. He killed his two friends and obtained this middle-grade flying spirit tool alone. After that, he returned to the Flying Cloud sect and rarely left the sect since then. After returning to the Flying Cloud sect, Yun Zhanfei rarely used the middle-tier flying spiritual tool. At least, he never used it when there were other people around. Even the Flying Cloud sect's enlightened being did not know that he had a middle-tier flying spiritual tool. If it was not for Yixing's heaven-defying potential, Yun Zhanfei would not have exposed that he had a middle-tier flying spiritual tool. However, he had to kill Yixing no matter what. Moreover, Yixing had a flying spiritual weapon that was at least of high grade. Killing Yixing would not only prevent future troubles, but he could also obtain a rare treasure. Of course, Yun Zhanfei had to kill Yixing even if he had to expose his medium-grade flying spiritual weapon. Yun Zhanfei made up his mind. After killing Yixing, he would not return to the Flying Cloud sect but leave the Green Cloud region. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep the high-tier flying spiritual tool and the Flying Cloud sect would not be able to keep it. It would definitely be taken away by the Sun-Moon sect. After leaving the Green Cloud region, he could go to the 9 great sects to trade. Even the 9 great sects' esteemed beings rarely had a high-tier flying spiritual tool. He could use the high-tier flying spiritual tool to trade for other treasures. For example, treasures that could increase his cultivation. Treasures that could increase an enlightened being's cultivation were definitely priceless. However, the value of a high-tier flying spiritual tool was no less than a supreme-tier spiritual tool. It was enough to trade for treasures that could increase an enlightened being's cultivation. Although a high-grade air transportation spiritual artifact was fast, it also consumed a lot of energy. How long could an 8-star martial saint last? Yun Zhanfei had a smile on his face. He was extremely happy in his heart. His gaze locked onto Yixing who was flying at high speed in the distance. He circulated his astral energy and flapped his wings continuously, increasing his speed to the limit as he chased after Yixing. Yixing, you must escape. You must. Lu Tianyuan prayed silently in his heart. Suddenly, his hair stood on end. He looked over at Qizhua, who was several kilometers away, and saw that Qizhua had knocked another arrow on his high-grade spirit bow and had locked onto him. Qizhua was furious that Yixing had escaped from Qizhua's hands. Although he had not attacked the perfected persons of the Falling Star sect due to his status, he was now venting his anger on them. Yixing knew that an enlightened master was chasing after him from behind. Pushing the celestial essence within his body to the limit, he desperately flapped his blue cloud wings and flew away at top speed. In the blink of an eye, he had flown a few kilometers. In another blink of an eye, he had flown 10 kilometers. In about 20 breaths, he had flown 100 kilometers away. As a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact, the blue cloud wing's speed was indeed extraordinary. Even though Yixing's current cultivation was far from being able to display the true speed of the blue cloud wings, his speed was still faster than Yun Zhanfei, a one-star enlightened master, who was flying with a middle-grade air transportation spiritual artifact. This caused Yun Zhanfei, who was chasing after Yixing, to be extremely surprised. This was because even though he was flying at top speed, the distance between him and Yixing was still increasing. How is this possible? An 8-star martial saint, even if he is flying with a high-grade air transportation spiritual artifact, can't be faster than me. Yun Zhanfei was deeply shocked. His eyes were filled with confusion. For a moment, he did not think that it was a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact. He really did not dare to imagine that an 8-star martial saint would have a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact. After 200 breaths, the two of them had flown for more than 1,000 kilometers. The distance between them had increased from the initial 10 kilometers to dozens of kilometers. Damn it! Damn it! Yun Zhanfei cursed as he chased after Su Mo. He was almost burning his astral energy as he flew, but he still could not shorten the distance between them. Suddenly, Yun Zhanfei's heart jolted and he was shocked. Could this lad's air transportation spiritual artifact be a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact? Yun Zhanfei did not dare to think about it before. Now that he thought about it, he immediately reacted. Perhaps this was the only reason why Yixing's speed was so fast. If it is a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact, this is a real peerless treasure. It is comparable to the legendary dark weapon that only the honorable martial artists are qualified to own. When Yun Zhanfei thought of this, his heart immediately became excited, and his heart thumped. If I can obtain a supreme-grade flying spiritual weapon and sell it, won't I become one of the richest perfected persons in the true Xian region? At that time, what kind of treasures can't I buy? Yun Zhanfei became even more excited. The only pity was that the speed of the top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact was too fast. Even in the hands of an 8-star martial saint, Yixing's flying speed was faster than Yun Zhanfei's middle-grade air transportation spiritual artifact. The distance between them was already dozens of miles. Although the view in the sky was wide and it was very difficult for Yixing to rely on obstacles to block Yun Zhanfei's vision to escape, if the distance between them was further, no matter how high they flew, there would still be many blind spots. Yixing could really use the obstacles in the mountains, valleys, and forests to escape from Yun Zhankong's pursuit. Yun Zhanfei was excited and anxious at the same time. He was afraid that Yixing would escape from under his nose. Compared to Yun Zhanfei, Yixing was even more anxious. As a top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact, the clear sky wings were fast enough. However, Yixing's cultivation was too low and he could not unleash the true speed of the clear sky wings. Moreover, Yixing's consumption of his celestial essence was too great. If he continued to fly like this, he was afraid that it would not be long before Yun Zhankong caught up with him and he would die of exhaustion due to the exhaustion of his celestial essence. In order to last longer, Yixing had to adjust the circulation of celestial essence in his body to reduce the consumption of his celestial essence. However, his flying speed also decreased. Behind Yixing, Yun Zhanfei's eyes suddenly brightened. A sage's sense of distance was extremely sensitive. When Yixing's speed slowed down, he immediately felt it. The distance between the two of them did not continue to increase. Instead, it was gradually decreasing. Ha! This kid finally can't hold on anymore. A mere 8-star martial saint wants to keep driving the top-grade air transportation spiritual artifact. It's simply wishful thinking. Today, I have a big harvest. Yun Zhanfei was overjoyed. Yixing controlled the consumption of his celestial essence within a bearable range, but his speed was still slower than Yun Zhanfei's. The distance between the two gradually decreased. When the distance between the two reached its initial length, they had already flown more than 2,000 miles. Yixing suddenly changed his direction. He no longer continued to fly forward, but fell down. Like a meteor falling, Yixing quickly landed on a mountain peak. In the end, he couldn't escape. He might as well fight with the enemy while he still had the strength. Otherwise, if he kept flying, his strength would be greatly consumed, and he couldn't get rid of the enemy. In the end, he could only quickly capture the enemy. Wuxie starlight rushed out from Yixing's glabella, turning into a huge flaming star suspended in the air. Yixing's eyes were firm. At this moment, there was nothing to say. No matter what method he used, he had to kill the enemy. Even if he had to expose all his trump cards, he would not stop. If he couldn't kill the enemy, there would only be one result, and that was his death. If he was going to lose his life, he naturally had to use all his trump cards. Everything would be to kill the enemy. Of course, he had to use his trump cards at the right time. He couldn't expose them all at the beginning. Although Yixing had broken through to the 8-star martial saint realm, his strength had increased a lot compared to when he was a 7-star martial saint. He didn't care about any half-step enlightened masters. However, a Star-Dipper enlightened master was far from a half-step enlightened master. Even a 1-star enlightened master was a strong threat to his life. When dealing with an enemy who was far stronger than him, he couldn't erupt his strength to the limit at the beginning. He had to first paralyze the enemy and then find an opportunity to deal a fatal blow. Yixing instantly took out the purple firmament bow and purple gold arrow. He used the azure dragon arrow style and shot an arrow at Yun Zhanfei, who was rushing toward him. Chapter 343. The arrow pierced through the air. It turned into a huge azure dragon and roared as it charged toward Yun Zhanfei. This arrow contained the power of the fire astral form, the power of the celestial origin, and the power of the heart of archery. Coupled with the greater mastery of the azure dragon arrow style, its power was terrifying. Even without using the Sagittarius constellation, it was more than enough to kill a half-step perfected person. The arrow pierced through the air and shot out a few miles in the blink of an eye. It collided with Yun Zhanfei, who was flying toward it. However, this arrow did not hurt Yun Zhanfei at all. Yun Zhanfei circulated his astral energy and stretched out his hand to grab the arrow that was flying toward him. His hand was like an iron clamp. The purple gold arrow was caught in his hand. The tail of the arrow was shaking, but it could not move forward anymore. A perfected person in the astral realm would have converted all of their celestial origin into astral energy. A half-step perfected person would only have 50% astral energy. There was a huge difference between 50% astral energy and 100% astral energy. It was like the difference between heaven and earth. This arrow was enough to kill a half-step perfected person, but it was caught by Yun Zhanfei easily. If a martial saint was someone who had just stepped onto the path of martial arts, then a perfected person would be an expert in the path of martial arts. There was a huge gap between a martial saint and a perfected person. It was like the gap between a martial saint and an ordinary martial artist. Moreover, a martial saint was afraid of being surrounded by ordinary martial artists. A 1-star martial saint had a high chance of dying when surrounded by a large number of ordinary martial artists. A perfected person was a high-end combat power. A martial artist could not win with numbers. Even if 109-star martial saints worked together, they would not be a match for a 1-star perfected person. In front of a 1-star perfected person, even a half-step perfected person would not be able to withstand a single blow. It did not matter if there were 10 of them or dozens of them. If you wanted to kill them, it would be like chopping vegetables. Your archery skills are not bad. You can kill a half-step perfected person. Unfortunately, you cannot withstand a single blow from a real perfected person. Yun Zhanfei snorted and threw the arrow away. Then, he pressed his palm down from the sky toward Yixing. Die, kid. The arrow was instantly thrown several hundred meters away by Yun Zhanfei. Yixing did not pay attention to the arrow that Yun Zhanfei threw out. Instead, he focused on the palm strike that came from the sky. The speed of Yun Zhanfei's descent from the sky was already fast enough, but the astral light from the palm strike was even faster. The surging celestial essence condensed into a palm-shaped astral light, which instantly grew in size until it was more than 10 feet tall and several feet wide. It was like a boulder the size of a house. Under the pressure of the palm, the airflow in the air started to distort. The airflow splashed in all directions, and the wind blades were as sharp as knives. One could see how terrifying the power of this palm was. What was even faster than the energy palm was the wind generated by the palm strike. While the palm strike was still in the air, the ground was already stirred up by the wind. Sand and pebbles were sent flying. Yixing felt as though an invisible mountain was pressing down on him. Heavenly Bat Steps. Yixing used the wind force of the minute's subtlety realm and executed the Heavenly Bat Steps. He took a step forward and his body turned into a stream of light, disappearing in a flash. With the Heavenly Bat Steps at the perfection realm and the wind force of the minute's subtlety realm, it was extremely fast. It was as if he had teleported. In terms of speed, Yixing was not inferior to a perfected being of the astral realm. Bang! Yun Zhanfei's palm strike missed and hit the ground where Yixing had just stood. A loud explosion rang out, causing the earth to shake. The ground was instantly shattered. The ground where the palm strike hit caved in, forming a deep palm print that was the same size as the palm strike. The mud and stones turned into dust under this palm strike. If Yixing had been hit, even if his body was stronger than any martial saint, he would have been seriously injured. Any martial saint would have been smashed into meat paste under this palm strike, regardless of whether it was one or several of them. Yixing stood a few hundred meters away with a look of horror in his eyes. Even though he had dodged the attack, he still felt a lingering fear from the power of the attack. The attacking power of a perfected being was terrifying. Yixing was no match for him in a head-on confrontation. Yun Zhanfei landed on the ground and stood beside the palm print. His gaze was like a sword as it shot toward Yixing. His aura locked onto Yixing. Although he had not made a move yet, Yixing already felt as if his body was being cut by a sharp blade. Yixing's body was so strong that ordinary weapons could not penetrate it. However, Yun Zhanfei's gaze was stronger than any weapon, causing Yixing to feel threatened. Yun Zhanfei looked excited, but his gaze was filled with disdain. He said, "Your speed has surprised me. It is even faster than many perfected beings. Unfortunately, it is still not enough for me." As he spoke, Yun Zhanfei raised his hand and a dazzling sword appeared in his hand. It was a top-notch middle spiritual weapon. No wonder Yun Zhanfei's gaze was so sharp. It turned out that he was a swordsman. With the spiritual weapon in his hand, Yun Zhanfei's aura surged. He was like a sword. Just his terrifying aura alone was enough to cut the surrounding air into pieces. "Die!" Yun Zhanfei shouted. In an instant, his entire body was like a flash of sword radiance as he charged toward Yixing. It was the sword step. Young Master Tian Luo's sword aura was strong enough and his sword step was fast enough. However, compared to Yun Zhanfei, he was still a few levels behind. Sword radiance flashed. To Yun Zhanfei, the distance of a few hundred meters was nothing. With a swing of his sword, a sword aura rose like the rising sun. It was unstoppable and it was about to hit Yixing fast. Too fast. Yixing did not even have time to dodge. He could only use the flame aura fist and punch out. Under the cover of the flame astral phenomenon, Yixing's flame astral energy surged and formed a flame aura fist in an instant. Although Yixing was not a perfected being, his attack was the same as a perfected being. It was Gang Qi and not Qi radiance. However, Yixing's fist aura could not be compared to the sword aura of Yun Zhanfei, a one-star perfected being. With a swoosh, the fist aura was cut in half by the sword aura. In the blink of an eye, the fist aura dissipated and turned into air currents that splashed to both sides. However, the sword aura did not lose its momentum and it hit Yixing's fist hard. They were both using the Sword of the Rising Sun from the middle stage changing sword technique. However, Yun Zhanfei was much more powerful than Yun Feng in terms of sword techniques and cultivation. Sparks flew everywhere. Instantly, Yixing spat out a mouthful of blood. Like a cannonball, his body shot backward and landed 100 meters away. Fortunately, he wore the burning flame gloves and blocked the sharpness of the sword aura. Otherwise, wherever the sword aura passed, not only his fist, but also Yixing's entire arm would have been cut in half. Upper stage spiritual weapon gloves. Yun Zhanfei's eyes lit up and he looked even more excited. As a one-star perfected being, the most precious item he had was a middle-stage flying spiritual weapon. Its value was on par with an upper-stage spiritual weapon. However, he did not have a real upper stage spiritual weapon. However, Yixing, an 8-star martial saint, had first revealed that he had a supreme flying spiritual weapon. Now, he had revealed that he had an upper stage spiritual weapon gloves. This had made Yun Jianfei surprised and happy. He had treated Yixing as a huge treasure vault. Kill this kid and all his treasures will be mine. All mine. Ha! Yun Jianfei could not help but laugh wildly. His aura surged and his sword aura pierced the sky. However, at this moment, the heavens and the earth suddenly darkened. Everywhere was shrouded in darkness and one could not even see their own fingers. Yixing had used the black hole astrology. Both he and Yun Jianfei were shrouded in darkness and they had entered the dark world created by the black hole astrology. Yun Jianfei was shocked and he stopped laughing. In an instant, he put up a defensive sword aura and raised his spirits. He looked around and realized that he could not see anything. There was only darkness. However, when he looked at the sky, he saw a huge black hole maelstrom spinning slowly in the sky. The black hole maelstrom was huge and its center was as black as ink. It was daunting and seemed to lead to another world. What is going on? Why did the sky suddenly turn dark? It should still be early before the sky turns dark. Yun Jianfei was bewildered. He looked at the black hole maelstrom in the sky and a thought flashed through his mind. He was even more shocked. Could this be that kid's astrology? However, he has the flame astrology. How can he have two astrology? Yun Jianfei quickly found the flame astrology beside the black hole maelstrom. It was also high in the sky but was pushed to the corner by the black hole maelstrom. Therefore, it did not look eye-catching. When Yun Jianfei saw the flame astrology, he was finally sure that the black hole maelstrom was Yixing's astrology. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.